regarding our Fire and EMS Commission matters, our meeting of March 6, 2025. Roll call by the respective entities. We'll start off with Cambridge.
Bryant.
Here.
Krakow.
Here.
Hollenbeck.
Here.
Blackwood.
Here.
Franklin. And McNally.
Here. Rockdale?
Clap. Here. Lido.
Here.
Here. Absent is Hines. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sam.
Here,
Gillette.
here.
And then town of Lake Mills.
Dave Schrader.
Jim Hines.
And do we have anybody here from the town of Christiana? Okay, all right. If we could stand at this time and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Respective clerks, has this meeting been properly posted in your municipalities?
Yep. Upper and lower levels of the Amundsen Community Center, Badger Bank, the Commercial Post Office, the village website.
The village of Rockdale, properly posted. Town of Lake Mills?
Yep.
Okay.
Website and town hall.
All right, okay. We're going to move on. Public comment
It
now.
was also posted that a quorum of the fire commissions may be present.
Okay. All right. We have a lot of people here tonight. Can I have a show of hands on who would like to speak during public comment? I'm seeing maybe 5, 10. All right. For the group, do we want to go 2.5 minutes?
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
What say you? 3 minutes? Okay. Do we have somebody who can take time?
Yep.
All right. Do we have a list of people who have scheduled? Maybe not. Okay. Put your hands up again and I'll try to remember. I'll start off with you, Janet.
I'm sorry, Mark, you said you're going to start with me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Please come up, introduce yourself.
My name is Jana Evans, and as many of you know, my husband Joe Evans is the Cambridge Volunteer Fire Department fire chief. At times when we are at social events within the communities the CFD serves, I will ask him for his thoughts as he is scanning the crowd, and his reply will be, "Do you realize I'm responsible for all these people and their families? I'm glad you're all here tonight, so you can't say you weren't aware. If I would have only known, I would have taken a different path." Only you will be accountable for your vote on how you instruct your Fire Commission representatives to move forward at the future Fire Commission meetings. For all parties involved, it is time for full transparency, complete honesty, and attention to the facts presented. And if the facts appear unrealistic or are conflicting, they should be fact-checked. We need to ensure all information you are basing your decision on is credible. There can be no more unilateral decisions, and the IGA must be followed. Personal agendas need to be placed aside, and those trying to influence you need to stop, and you need to be making your own decision based truly on fact and truth. There are many things that have been reported the last 30 days and that are continuing to happen that are disturbing to many. The recent loss of our insurance with a need to find an alternative with, at minimum, much larger deductible costs, and the presumed continued filing of DWD complaints will be the least of the worries of the Fire Commission, municipalities, you as board members, and taxpayers if these actions aren't addressed. You have all been elected by your constituents to protect them and serve them in a fiscally responsible manner. You took an oath to do so. Your decisions moving forward are vital to the health, lives, and monetary future of all you serve. You will have to live with your decisions and the outcomes of those decisions. Perhaps you should be viewing your role as Joe does and be looking at the people and the families that are counting on you to make the right decisions for the right reasons. And I would ask that this become a part of the public record.
Thank you. There was a lady, yes.
I'm Julie Christ, and I live here in Cambridge. I am going to read a letter from my neighbor on Oriole Lane who could not be here tonight. Dear board members, my family encountered a dangerous and terrifying situation with Cambridge EMS on Monday, February 24th. It has seriously impacted how I view our local emergency services and reduced my confidence in our community. At 9:20 p.m., my husband complained of pressure in his chest. I immediately gave him 2 aspirin, put a pulse oximeter on his finger, and called 911. Cambridge EMS were dispatched and arrived at our home at about 9:50. I informed them of his condition and that he is a cancer patient at UW Carbone Cancer Center and has stage 4B prostate cancer and is considered high risk for stroke. He has high blood pressure, is 69 years old, and I was very concerned that he was having a heart attack, and I told them that. I requested that they take him to the UW Hospital emergency room. At that time, Fort Atkinson EMS showed up. The Fort Atkinson paramedic administered 4 more aspirin, inappropriate treatment according to the ER doctor. I was told that Cambridge did not have a paramedic on duty, and they were not able to transport my husband, so Fort Atkinson was going to transport. I again asked for transport to UW Hospital and explained my reasons. The Fort Atkinson crew refused to take him to UW Hospital, insisting instead on transporting him to Fort Atkinson Hospital because they said that there was no real evidence that he was having a heart attack. The only evidence they had of that fact was 1 EKG, and early heart attacks do not show on an EKG, and they should know that. Once we got to Fort Atkinson Hospital, we found out that they have no cardiology unit at all. It would be necessary to transport my husband to another facility, but there were no beds available in any hospitals closer than Green Bay. By then, my daughter had arrived from Madison, and together as a family, we made a very difficult decision to gamble with his life and transported him ourselves, against medical advice, in the middle of the night, mid-heart attack, to UW Hospital, 45 minutes away, where he was diagnosed with a heart attack and treated accordingly. It was a dark, harrowing drive, dangerous and life-threatening. My daughter is a medical professional and says it was one of the scariest things she has ever done. Subsequently, my husband had quadruple bypass surgery and a valve replacement on Saturday. He's doing as well as can be expected and will be released soon. I am very disappointed that Cambridge EMS cannot work this out. Now I can't trust EMS to help us if there's an issue when my husband gets home. Frankly, I'm scared. We as a village need to address this before someone dies due to inadequate staffing and poor management. Sincerely, Bonnie J. Vanderbosch.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to alternate. Somebody in this group. Is there anybody else? I know we had, yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I live in Christiana. I'm reading this on behalf of Virginia Kravick, who could not be here tonight. I was very disheartened to read the comments in the paper from Mark Cook regarding the town of Christiana's vote or voice regarding the Cambridge EMS issues. I don't feel his opinion echoes the sentiment of all the residents of the town. I hope that other board or appointed members will be able to listen to the information presented with an open mind. I do not know if contracting with Deer Grove EMS is the best option, as we have not yet heard their exact proposal, but I feel to dismiss it before even hearing it is reckless. Unless we have an adjusted budget from the current Cambridge EMS, a line-by-line budget such as the one provided by the CVFD, one cannot compare the services versus the cost without these key items. Going with one option or the other has nothing to do with loyalty, and if all the municipalities decide to contract with Deer Grove EMS, it does not mean that the Cambridge EMS could not be resurrected in the future, when things are not so chaotic and more information can be obtained on how to move forward in a responsible manner. To be careless with taxpayer monies is wrong. Our residents do not have unlimited funds. We need to have a dependable, reliable, and cost-effective service in our community. I truly hope that everyone will listen with an open mind and weigh all the options presented without bias. Virginia Kravick, Town of Christiana.
All right, somebody from this section. Jackie?
Hello,
Can you give us your name?
Jackie Fry. I moved from Cambridge to the town of Oakland, which many are aware of because I've come to several meetings, and I'm still just as confused as before. I just have a few things to say that I'm proud to be a lifelong resident, but I'm also very saddened to see the state that we're in. I ask a couple of things from everybody today here. One is transparency from everybody. Two, the facts. Facts, not lies, not, all the different things that have been going on for 2 or 3 years. Number 3, can we please quit kicking the can? The can has been kicked so many times that it's done. It's time to make some decisions. These are very scary times for me personally as a member of Cambridge, and I hope that as adults and a group of people that we can finally once and for all come together. These are, my taxpayer dollars went from here to here to here to here, and that's what I hear from several people. So I think once and for all we could finally come to some kind of a solution to this. So I've been to several of these, and lots of heads been nodded and different things going on, but there's no action being taken. So that is my one hope, is that somebody can finally start taking action on this instead of here's the next meeting and here's this next meeting and here's this and here's this. We're kicking the can down the road way far too long. So, thank you.
All right, I'm going to go back to this side of the room. Everybody on the right-hand side. Is there anybody else in that group? Okay, I'll go to this side of the room. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak? I'm going to ask one more time. If you wanted to speak, now is your time, your chance. Okay, I'm going to close this portion of the meeting for public comment, and I'm going to move on to our discussion and possible action regarding items A through D on 5, starting off with the Cambridge area EMS proposal.
Nope.
Status of staffing and agreement in place.
Okay.
A revised one was sent out.
Okay. Oh, all right. I've got an old agenda, I'm sorry. Status of the staffing and agreements in place, Dane County Emergency Management. All right.
Good evening. Carrie Meyer with Dane County Emergency Management. I just basically asked for this to be put on the agenda as there's a lot of questions from your surrounding communities and obviously from our perspective as well. We have an intergovernmental agreement between all of the agencies in Dane County.
And there's a lot in that agreement. It's 20-some page agreement, but to summarize it, it's about quality of care throughout the county and knowing that we have other ambulances that are going to help one another. And there's just a lot of question of what is happening here in Cambridge, whether or not the staffing is at paramedic level, which is our understanding through the operational plan, which is a state level thing, that the county doesn't set that standard. That's something that Cambridge submitted to the state and said they're paramedic level. So there's that question. Then there's the question for your neighbors who may need to come into Cambridge to help cover if you can't staff your rig, but also that works in both directions. So if your neighbor Stoughton, let's just say both rigs are out, their expectation is that Cambridge is going to come cover, just like they're going to come cover Cambridge. And there's just a lot of question, and I don't know the answers. I've asked for coverage agreements, which I have received some of those, for like the coverage agreement between Cambridge and Lakeside, and Cambridge and Fort. I still think both the 911 center and emergency management, we have some questions on what that looks like. Is that happening immediately? Like, right, 911 can see our ambulances in Dane County. We have AVL, auto vehicle locator. They can tell where the ambulances are. They can send the closest, most appropriate ambulance. So the question being, if Cambridge is going to a call and they're not paramedic staffed, and then they're calling once they get there for Lake Mills, or calling, sorry, I apologize, for Fort Atkinson or for Lakeside, what are those delays? What does that look like? I'm concerned for your staff that are on. I received a request asking from one of your EMTs, like, am I okay to run on this service right now? Because I think we're supposed to be paramedic, but should I run? Like, am I putting my license at risk? And that's a question for the state. It's not something I can answer, but it also, I feel for your staff who are having those questions. So I just wanted to put it on your agenda just so you recognize that it's not just your municipalities. The whole county can be affected by this. Dispatch has a lot of, questions. They're kind of like playing it as, we dispatch Cambridge and we wait for them to tell us what they are. But I just wanted you to know my concerns, and if you have questions for me, I can take those.
Do we have questions from the local municipalities of Cary? Anything at this time?
I've got a couple. Do we know if, we know that in the past month or so that we have had days without paramedic coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding they're supposed to log in as rescue,
Correct.
not medic, correct? Do we know if that's being done?
I do believe that is being done.
That is being done?
Yes.
Okay. And who would be the one, or what would be the process for the review of the coverage agreements?
I mean, the process really, if it could come through our office, we have Medical Advisory Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of our EMS Commission that oversees the IGA. We also have Corp Counsel who can take a look at that as well. With the IGA, I think where I struggle a little right now too is I can't get a clear answer from the state if you can run at that lower level, because I have always understood our operational plans, and other chiefs can speak to this as well, but whatever you have at the state, unless some agencies do flex staffing because they have a small enough population that they can do that. My understanding is Cambridge's operational plan says that you are paramedic staffed, which means you have to have a minimum of one paramedic.
Okay.
If you're going to downgrade as an agency, the rule and statute is that you have to do like town hall meetings to say that you're going to do that. You need to submit it to the state, a new operational plan, and then they have to approve it. So it's not, my understanding from the state is it's not as simple as just like reaching out to the neighbor and say, hey, come help me out
Come help me.
once in a
Okay.
while. So I think that would be a great question for the state if you do want more information on that.
Okay. And when did you receive these?
Wednesday of this week. We were having some problems with email with it coming through, but once I got a hold of the right people, we did get copies of the coverage agreements.
Okay.
And it appears anyways that it's just between Fort Atkinson and Lakeside. And it's just like an agreement for a 24-hour shift at a time.
Okay. And is that a standard practice to have agreements like this?
Coverage agreements are a standard practice if you cannot staff your ambulance. So typically if someone's doing, mutual aid is a part of our IGA, and that's if you're busy at another call, someone's going to come in.
Right.
If you can't staff your ambulance, then the state requires that you do a coverage agreement with your neighbor. Your neighbor can decide they charge you for a coverage agreement, or they can say they'll do it without charging you. It's up to that municipality. So it appears your coverage agreements, which again are a little different because it seems that your rig is going with a non-paramedic crew, and then the paramedics are coming. There are no charges happening for your coverage agreements at this time, according to these. Like Fort Atkinson is not charging you to do this, and neither is Lakeside.
Isn't there a $58 something or other, $58.34 charge for the callback medic for Fort?
That I can't speak to, but Fort can.
Okay. Okay.
That's just not in these that I saw.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And are there a certain number of days that we're allowed to do something like this, or is it they can just randomly whenever they need it?
That would be a state question.
Okay.
Carrie, I got a question about running at a lower level. You mentioned earlier that it's not the norm. Is there a policy that you know of where, because we're in a rural area, we can run at a lower level for a certain period of time or an agreed upon period of time?
There is that flex staffing model that the state will allow.
But that comes with an agreement within the municipalities, correct?
Yep, and submitted to the state, and then the state reviews it. You tell the state like how you plan to do that, like,
Okay.
you know.
Because I know, I don't know if Bob Saloff is here, but he went through a lot of pain to make sure that we were paramedic level staffing. And to downgrade now that all that work has been done, I didn't know that we were able to operate at a lower level, so.
There's a process though per DHS to be able to downgrade. That's why a lot of smaller municipalities, if they have some paramedics on staff, they're going with this flex model so that they're not as locked into the paramedic.
I got you. All right, thank you.
And we don't know if any such discussions with the state have been had.
I do not know
Okay.
that.
What are the consequences if we don't? Can you speak up a little bit?
What, the question was, what are the consequences if we don't? I mean, the states can shut down an ambulance service and say, you're done operating. But typically, they go through a long investigative process, and so I don't know if there is anything happening with the state right now, but.
One last question, Carrie, from me. How do people get a hold of you should they have any questions? Do you have an email or do you have a phone number?
Sure, email, phone number, or you can go to like our website, Dane County Emergency Management.
Can you repeat that?
Just how to get a hold of me would
Yes.
be Dane County Emergency Management website.
I think my only concern with those coverage agreements is they all say that they're really specific to Cambridge, the village proper, and what about Rockdale and Christiana? And I asked Chief Peterson the same question, and it sounds like, it's not like they will say no, right, if we need them. But, and like the same as the story we heard earlier, the agreement is that Fort will transport to Fort, because that's where they operate out of, understandably so, unless higher level is needed, or whatever would be necessary, but that does play into our care.
Yes.
Right, I mean,
yes.
if you're out in Christiana, and that's a tough call for them, it's a tough call for us. And so I think that, and Lakeside is closer to Rockdale than Fort, and so I'm sure that plays into the decision from, I understand it to be the EMTs are the
Right.
ones that make that decision of who to call, so I think from a municipality standpoint, I mean, we pay the smallest portion of the bill, but, coverage wise, as far as, it sounds like Fort is most comfortable covering Cambridge, because that's where they are. What about us in the lowly nethers of the district? That's my concern with those, and I don't know, how that plays into the state's review of the situation or what that would look like, but just reading through them, that
They
was-
should be looking at the whole coverage
The whole
area. Yep, the whole district. I mean, I think that goes back to, my concern from our IGA though, is the neighboring communities and expecting Cambridge to be coming, not realizing they're gonna have to stay on scene waiting for
Right.
Lakeside or others to come.
Yeah, I just think, Utica is not close to anywhere. And so for us to get there and then determine we need paramedic coverage and then dispatch Lakeside, the time involved in that is the concern.
And I can't speak to, they may be calling for them while they're en route.
Sure, of
I don't
course,
know for
if
sure
they
if it's
knew-
once
yeah.
they evaluate the
Sure.
patient, I'm not sure on that piece.
Yeah, that's just, the time sensitive piece of it, if you have a medic on the equipment, you don't have to worry about that. Yep. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay. Carrie, we thank you for.
One more quick, you mentioned that Cambridge EMS member that was concerns that he had, was that recent or is that,
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks.
okay, thank you. Thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you
Thank you.
again. Appreciate it. Now we will go on to item B, Cambridge Area EMS proposal from the EMS. Let's see.
Mark, how do you wanna
Yeah.
handle this, because
You kind of be
what
able to see.
John and Joel are gonna talk about is more of the budget proposal, or budget, yeah, the 25 budget, proposal, more than, an EMS, proposal.
Can-
You guys agree with that?
It's your call.
So, what do you wanna do?
What was the question again, Dave?
What they have to present is more of a 25 budget proposal.
Well, it's the budget for
Right, yeah.
2020.
But it's not a EMS, proposal, it's a budget proposal.
Okay.
It's not itemized, right?
So do we wanna wait until we get down to item E under?
Yeah,
budget?
that's my question,
To
what
talk.
you guys feel, because it is itemized, it's itemized, yeah.
Not really.
You guys should all the copy.
Kind of.
Well,
I just wanna make sure we're not confused of, a proposal to a budget proposal.
Well, I guess it was
So-
our.
We can go over it
unders-
twice if you want. I don't
So
care.
hold on, this is not, hold on, this is not in response to your request to be able to submit a new budget? That is not what this is?
It is the draft.
Okay, then I would say it's the proposal.
The draft.
would you like to sit on this side? Can you see this, or do you all have a copy?
Everybody has a copy, this is really just for the folks, so that they had something to see.
All right, gentlemen, can you introduce yourselves, please?
John Williams, Cambridge UMS.
Joel Idling, Cambridge Area EMS.
Okay, before we get started, can you guys all speak a lot louder? I can hear you right here, but I'm sure none of those guys can.
Joel Idling, Cambridge Area EMS.
And I'm John Williams.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So if you can't hear us, please let us know. Sorry.
I'll tell you what, during their presentation, if you can't hear, just raise your hand. I will see it, and then I will ask them, because their backs are to you, so it'll be pretty hard. All right? Does that sound?
Can they face us or?
They've got to look at the wall.
No, they've got their own
They've
copies.
gotta look at
They've
the
got their own
camera.
copies, but they need to speak into that mic because we're recording, so. Sit side to side.
Okay. All right, John, Joe,
Thank you.
floor is yours.
Well, I mean, what questions do you guys have about what we sent over? I mean, is there any?
He asked what questions we have.
So the wages that you have listed here, is that based on what kind of staffing?
So there's 3 paramedics, 1 working director
Louder.
paramedic. So three paramedics, 1 working director, a working paramedic on shift at all times, and as the director as well. And then you can have 3 AMTs, or there's a B in there, and a basic in there too, EMT basic.
And then what rotation, 72 hours on?
96, what we currently work right now.
So how m-
And how many hours of overtime is built into the 4896?
16 a week, 16 per pay period.
Okay, so how many of the wages that you based this on are anticipated to be unionized? And did you take in the amounts in the union contract when you pulled these numbers together?
This is all union. Six full-time employees is what the union contract considers.
What rate did you have for the director?
$25 an hour at $83,200 a year. The previous director was making $95,000 a year. I thought that was a little high.
Louder, please.
Yep, you got it.
Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, so the working director, paramedic, he's making $83,200 a year at $25 an hour. The previous director made $95,000 per year salaried.
How many people would we have to hire in order to provide the service that because I know right now, we don't have this many people, and a lot of you are working a lot more overtime, so this wouldn't be an accurate representation of how much money we're actually spending right now. So how many more people would you have to hire in order for us to be able to do this?
2. Right now.
Okay, so how many paramedics do we currently have?
We have one full-time, one part-time paramedic.
So would the 2 people we're hiring be paramedics?
Yes.
And you said all the wages are the union
Yes.
employees only, so
Every-
what about our paid on calls? Where does that come into the budget?
They're allotted in there. I allot for 624 hours a year for part-time. Yeah.
Can you tell me what standby time is?
Standby time is like a paid on call. So you get paid $3 an hour to be on a possible shift, 12 or 24-hour shift if you're available. And then you just respond from home to the call.
And how often do we utilize that?
Not very often. It's just built in there.
So the several hundred hours of standby time in the 2024 payroll, that's not utilized very often?
I didn't have the 2024, so
Okay.
nothing I could see. As far as I know, we didn't use that many, but that's,
The standby hours, if there's a second call and enough people show up, that payroll expense would be offset by the revenue of that call.
Okay.
How many staff in total, full-time, paid, part-time, do we have for Cambridge EMS?
currently 10.
So you've got 4 that are full-time,
3 full-timers right now.
Okay.
We have an offer out to a 4th, and then 6 part-timers.
so those are the ones that would do the standby call, or do we have
They work
anybody?
shifts too.
Okay.
They do work shifts right now, yeah.
Standby is separate from the
Schedule.
full-time schedules. Standby would be, 96 is out on a call, we get a call for a second ambulance. The standby people would be the ones that would respond.
So those are, do we have those, do we have a standby pool right now?
It's 10.
Okay, so that's why we don't use it maybe as much
Yeah.
at the moment?
Yeah.
Is that where you put volunteers and
Mhm.
that?
Yep.
How many volunteers do we have?
What do we have?
2.
2 or 3?
And Leslie, you and Roy. Yeah, 3.
John, I have a question. I'm not seeing the house on here. Is it just your allocation of the station expenses and there wasn't anything on the house?
Correct. So I was instructed that the commission has its own expenses. So like our ambulance is their loan, the house is their loan. That's not included in our operation.
Okay. So what you're saying is that your expenses, direct expenses for the EMS, 830,000
Correct.
for the year.
Yep.
You're projecting a call payout 20% of 192,000.
Yes.
So you're looking for your direct expenses, 638,000 and change.
Yes, sir.
Question, Dave, thoughts on this one here? Jim?
Just how many, let's say last year, what was your staff? How many have you lost in the last 2-3 months since this has been going on?
4 paramedics.
4?
Yes.
Paramedics?
Yep.
Okay, and you mentioned you're looking for 2 paramedics.
Correct.
How easy is it to find paramedics?
It's not,
It's not,
especially in our situation.
Especially in the situation with
this
the
situation.
politics going on,
Yep.
yes.
And possibility of losing more EMTs.
Actually, we've had some former EMTs and advanced EMTs reach out about rejoining.
Other questions?
Does this take into consideration the collective bargaining agreement increase?
Yes. That is that'll be the current wages after July 1st. That's the final number.
Louder, please. Can you?
Yeah, so July
what was-
1st,
What
we
was
were
the question? Because some couple.
he just wanted to see if the current CBA wages are in there, and after July 1st, we receive the next 3%. That, these are all the numbers from that. Current wages for paramedic, AEMT, and EMTV. This is all the same, all those numbers.
And how is the 48.96 overtime projected in here?
So we're, every pay period, each full-timer is paid 100 for 112 hours. We only utilize 112 hours one pay period a month. So each month, the full-timers they have 16 hours of overtime that isn't paid out unless they use it. So it's built into that. It's 96 hours overtime a month, 1,152 a year for the full-timers.
How did you come up with the $2,000 uniform allowance? In 2024 it was $8,000, in 2023 it was $45,000.
You are correct. Each full-timer is allotted $300 for uniforms, and that's what we have to stick to. I don't know where the other numbers came from. I wasn't in charge.
And does this take into account new hires as well too?
Correct. There's $200
For
for
your
teams. They get
uniforms?
they get a t-shirt and a pair of pants.
And do you have built in here your social media platform payouts, things along those lines?
I don't pay for social media.
We don't?
Well, are you talking about Facebook?
Facebook, Instagram, Adobe,
That would be in Microsoft and Adobe under IT services. I don't pay for that. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't have access to the Facebook.
do you know what EIG Constant Contact is?
Oh, that's a recruiting
Louder,
service.
please.
Okay, so we pay for that?
I haven't utilized it or seen it, so I don't know.
Okay.
I can have JJ look at it.
Okay. It'd be helpful to have a breakdown of all the social media
Yep.
costs and whatever other IT platforms, things along those lines would be very helpful.
I think one of the big unknowns with this year now without Oakland was not only losing run revenue, but then also staffing and what that would look like. How are we doing with projections of what our staffing model looks like compared to what we lost? You know, are we overstaffed, understaffed, run revenues, what we expected? What does that look like so far in the first quarter?
Well, we're dramatically,
Louder.
we're at 80 calls this year, which is 20 less than last year. So
By this time.
at $2,000 a piece, you know, it's 40 grand or whatever, but 60% of that's not paid out. So
Until,
you know.
sure. But as far as like staffing, how much we're staffing, how many
Oh.
calls we're going on, did we budget that appropriately for losing Oakland, or, you know, how does that kind of?
Well, losing Oakland didn't affect the CBA. We're still paid what we're paid, and you still have 6 full-time positions in the CBA. The only thing that affected our budget was losing
The run
2
revenue.
chiefs and a deputy chief,
Yeah.
who cost a lot of money. So it is, I mean, that was a $250,000 savings, losing the chief and deputy chief.
Well, I think that's the question, right, is our staffing model still what we need?
Yeah.
With losing all those calls in Oakland, and are we paying too
well,
many people or not enough people?
Well, that would be negotiated in the new CBA if that's something everybody wanted to do from the municipalities. That'd have to be in the CBA. That's nothing we can do now. You sign the agreement for till the end of this year at least, and then after this year we'll have to negotiate a new contract, and that can be negotiated.
Yeah, I understand that, but are we staffing well for that? Like, are you finding that what our staffing model is in the collective bargaining agreement, is that enough? Is that
Yeah.
not enough?
Yes.
Is it too many?
For 4 municipalities,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the
maybe
big
one,
question.
maybe one less,
Yeah, okay.
but
And we're running 1 ambulance or 2?
one, just one.
One out of
No
the-
more 2.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask for clarification?
Clarification, sure.
Okay, so there's lots of numbers going around, so I'm just trying to wrap this around my head. So, John, you said $83,000 for the, I don't know what kind of director you're calling him right now.
Working director.
Excuse me.
Working director.
Okay,
Like
so.
Jim Baldoff was.
Okay, thank you. So you said $25 an hour, correct?
Yes.
So if I do the math, $25 an hour, that's 52,000 a year, and you said it's gonna be 83,000.
So we work 56-hour work weeks, so 112.
Okay, so the
yeah, every
director's
pay
getting
period.
overtime.
Yeah, we all get overtime.
Okay.
It's all built in.
Is the director gonna take shift?
Yes, it's a working director, so
Okay.
he'll always be on a
Thank you.
4896. Yep.
Yeah, so what we mean by working director is you're the director, but you're also a paramedic taking call.
So it's a paramedic that's gonna be the director?
Well, that'll be up to whoever decides to do the hire, but in the budget is assumed that's gonna be a paramedic.
Thank you for the clarification.
Welcome.
Can we go back, just a quick question to the scheduling model? You said 48.96, so 48
Yes.
on, 96 off. How are you accounting for the 7th workday?
The 7th?
Yes.
So you. Louder. Yeah, so it's hard to explain the rotation, but if I do a 48 and I have 4 off, I come back on the 7th day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work a 48 on that 7th and 8th day, and then.
But you have a 7-day work week, right? Sunday
Right,
to
but
Sunday?
You might have a Monday off one week.
Right.
And then it's the Tuesday.
Mhm.
And it's the one, that's way.
Correct.
You don't have people that are always working the weekends or always
Right.
having the weekends off, so that's why it doesn't align with the calendar, it's not meant to.
No, that I understand,
Okay.
but that 7th day would be considered overtime?
On one of the pay periods per month is yes, you're
All
working.
24 hours?
No,
16.
16.
16 of the
yes.
hours is
Yeah.
overtime?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's built into the CBA though. That's already paid.
I get that.
Okay.
I know we tried to negotiate to have a different shift, so we wouldn't have to pay that $16 an hour in overtime. So that would be something that, if we stayed, I would definitely want to renegotiate, because there's a lot of other, because that's a lot of money for us,
Sure. Yeah.
that overtime.
It's a very attractive schedule to people though, to have 2 days on and 4 days off. That's why they went that way. There's other options like the 24/72.
Yep.
24/48. 24/48's expensive as well, but the 24/72 might be an option.
Louder.
And you'd have a Kelly day in there
Can we
too.
put the microphone closer?
It's
That's
not,
It doesn't.
that's just for recording.
Okay.
They're coming through fine up on mine, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be a new
Okay.
a CBA, a new negotiation CBA.
All right, Cambridge, any more questions?
Do you,
Brian?
you have listed in benefits, is workers' comp listed? I don't see that listed kind of broken.
No,
out.
also a commission itemized bill.
Okay, so do you have a list of what you're expecting the commission to pay? So this is more of an operating EMS budget, and
Yeah,
then you have
this
other
is
things.
just Cambridge EMS
Okay,
operations.
so
wages,
legal
benefits.
fees,
Yep,
all
that's
those
all-
other things are outside of this.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
We were asked by the commission to align it with how Deer Grove did theirs, so that's what.
So is FICA in here?
That was the next
Correct.
one on my
Yes.
list.
Yep.
Thank you.
That'll be in your benefits line.
That's in the benefits line,
Correct.
FICA?
Yep.
Social Security and Medicare?
Yep, WRS.
Well, that's FICA.
Yeah.
No. WRS is our 401k though, but it's also in there. That's the most expensive part of our benefits package is WRS.
Sure.
I know, FICA's not in there.
We don't have FICA
I mean,
in
I'm
there though.
comparing.
It's on your benefits line. So the 196, 497 is FICA, Social Security, WRS, health insurance.
It
So
just
you
says,
just didn't write out FICA on here, but you included it, because that's not included in your parentheses.
yeah, it says WRS Medicare /SS, health. That's what it says, right?
FICA's
Oh,
usually
yeah,
like
sorry.
50 grand.
Yeah, no, I didn't put in the parentheses. You're right. That's also in there.
Do you have the commission budget? I mean, it was sent out today by email.
The commission budget?
The commission portion. It's 283,583. It was on that spreadsheet that nobody printed out, but it's here. Right, Dave?
Yes.
It was sent out today.
This one?
Yeah, that's right here. Yeah. You don't have that?
Who sent it out?
You did. Lisa.
I didn't send out a budget,
I sent it to you guys. Oh,
but not to.
Oh, not to the rest of us?
No, John sent it to you guys, and just to save him a little bit of time, I sent it to our clerk.
John just
I
sent
just
us
sent this
this.
Oh,
And
Just
said
okay.
the
that's
EMS
commission
operation.
budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not receive
We did
a
not get
commission
that.
budget.
You're talking, well,
Okay.
I guess
well,
one
they
of
need-
the-
So the money per call, is that gross or net?
Net.
Net?
How did you arrive at that number?
We had a meeting with our billing group earlier this week, and we took his percentages and then we lowered them.
One other item, you said that you're planning on having a one working director, as you call it?
Louder.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Sorry, your plan is to have one working director,
Yes.
correct? And we're supposed to, that person's supposed to work on coverage maps, is supposed to work on schedules, is supposed to work on,
Yep.
all the other reports.
It's not
all the-
uncommon for a small department like this. to have a
Okay,
working
and then also
director.
go out to calls, but also interview, we're gonna have to interview people, you know what I mean, like
Yep.
recruiting, okay.
He's got 48 hours to do that on shift. He can do it, and then he can work during the week too if he'd like. I mean, that's it's up to him, but that's what
Just
the
wanna be
48.
clear, okay.
Where's training in here?
Training is under wages. I have 96 hours a year budget for training.
Under wages?
Because
Yep.
you get paid for training.
Yep.
So it's
But
a
you have
wage.
to actually pay for the training itself, don't you?
Oh.
Where's that dollar?
That's in the
Yeah, I
commission
don't-
budget.
Right, that's, we don't have a,
Why would that be a commission budget?
That's
That should
always
be under
been-
the EMS, because we
Yep.
wouldn't need that cost if we didn't have EMS.
That's always been under, have you ever seen, and this, I mean, this is a great start, have you ever seen previous budgets
Yeah.
where it's broken down in your
I've
300,
seen-
200, 300, 400 categories?
yeah, like this one?
Yes.
Yeah, I do
So-
have this one from 24.
Training has always been listed under your operating budget.
Okay.
It's it used to be 100.2.
Yeah, so 600.2 EMS operations
Louder.
for 103,000.
Nope. Yes, well, yes, it's
Okay.
been in there, but that's one
Okay.
of the people expenditures for you.
Yeah.
Recruiting, training, uniforms, medical incentives, food, and humanitarian. Is that all included in here somewhere?
No.
Okay. Consumables.
Okay, other questions here?
Kristen, do you have a copy of the last budgets? I just want to see if that net rate is historical to the average in the
I don't know
past.
that it was ever listed directly, this is the first I've ever seen the estimate revenue per call. It's just always been
We made 308,000 last year on 564 calls. Billable calls.
Can you repeat that? There were some.
Yep. So we billed for 564 calls last year, and we made 308,000 in revenue, run revenue.
And you have fuel on here, you have some of the other expenses, you have those broken out in the percentages that are split between you and
Yes,
the fire
correct. Yep.
department? So
Yep.
the 90-10 for.
Yep, for
Okay.
fuel, yep.
What would be the name of your organization moving forward?
Cambridge EMS.
So as far as like the CCFD,
Well,
what would that,
it-
how would we
It'd be pretty
transition out of
expensive to
that?
change it.
I
I mean,
know.
they made the
It's
change.
expensive to get there.
Correct,
Yeah.
I agree. I
fair
don't
point.
think we're gonna,
We're trying, what we're doing is we're going back to the way things were done before. I can't speak to what happened the last couple of years. And I'll tell anybody, there's a lot of people that already know. For the last 3 years, it's been interesting, but
good
I
word.
personally come down to, I'm just here to help
Mhm.
the people I live with. And I think a homegrown service is the best. I think if we get beyond this, hiring 2 paramedics is not gonna be difficult. And I think we have a lot of people we're starting to see already, right or wrong, some people wanna come back. And I think it's because some individuals aren't here, whether it's on the commission or on EMS or maybe even possibly fire, I don't know. I don't ask that, I just say, let's go. You know, here's my medical director, let's get you on board and let's get to what we're really here for. And that's to save lives and to get things done. And a lot of I call it politicking, is turning a lot of people off. We need to stop that. I would agree with a couple other people here that there's a lot of stuff out there that's not true. And I choose not to speak about it because everybody has to look at themselves in the mirror in the morning. And I think mud has been slung both ways, and that's in the past. And John and I spent a lot of time putting this together, and we feel that we've understated revenue. We feel we've probably overstated some expenses because we have not been involved as much, and we'll get it done.
You said homegrown service. What does that look like to you? Hometown service.
Yep.
Excuse me. Hometown
I
service.
want,
What does that
I
look
want
like?
Cambridge, I want Oakland, I want Rockdale, I want Christiana, I want Town of Lake Mills. We all work together. If we work together, we're better, including the fire department.
That was gonna be my next question.
We're not-
Have we talked about plans of repairing that relationship with the fire department? Like, what would that look like?
Well, I mean, I'm just interim, so hopefully we can start fixing things. There's no reason for it anymore. I think the 2 issues are gone, the 2 people that caused the issues, so I don't see why we can't.
And honestly, maybe this isn't politically correct. Maybe it's going down to Ripley Lanes or a place and having a beer and just talk. I think people are afraid to talk sometimes and show vulnerabilities.
I mean, I
To
think
me?
one of the big gaps, right, is like talking about the coverage agreements that you have. You are thin right now.
We are.
We don't have the coverage we need. And, you know, if the fire department was an EMR and they were allowed to become an EMR and respond from areas of the district, that covers some of your gaps,
Well, we
not
would
the
welcome
paramedic
that.
gap.
Yep. Right.
Right, but I mean, that's, you know, been the bad blood
Yeah.
lately, and it's affected people.
Yeah.
And that, I agree with you. I mean, I live in Rockdale, I grew up in Utica, my family lives in Christiana, my kids go to school in Cambridge. I mean, every area of this district I am in at any hour of the day, or my kids, or my family, or my friends. And I'm with you. I mean, I always said on the worst day when someone calls 911, I want the best people showing up to take care of them. I don't care who it is. We need to be able to afford them, and we need to make sure that they are appropriately trained to take care of whatever situation. And
Yep.
I think that, you know, we've burned some bridges along the way of real resources in our district that
Yep.
could cover a lot of these gaps. And I agree with you. I mean, I think that's where we need to get back to and figure out who the problem children were
Yep.
and how we can move on past that.
Well, I've been in this district for, don't want to date myself, 25 years.
The line, and you can't take care of your family. I mean, I'm gonna choose my family
Right.
over helping my neighbor if it means I can't feed my kids, and that shouldn't be how we take care of each other.
Right.
So I think that, you know, that's a big thing. That's not a new statement to you. You understand that, but
Well, the call volume's not going to drop. We get older every day, you know. You know, I think if the fire department wants to do EMR, I would welcome that. I'm pretty sure John would as well. I can't speak to stuff that was in the past. All I can do is look forward and return to the roots. You know, that's
have
that's
you
why I've
had
been
any
here.
conversations with Oakland at all in
Me
the
personally?
last 3 months?
No.
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 That's a big.
Some of that is hesitation on our part. We don't know what we can and can't do. So I always err on the side of being cautious and conservative and not step into something that I inadvertently.
I just ask questions all the
Oh,
time.
that's great.
Me too. I'll ask for forgiveness. Yeah.
And I get the transparency thing. That's what we're working on.
Can you talk a little bit more about the relationship between the fire chief and the EMS director, which I think, at the point where we talked about changing the IGA, that kind of became a little bit of a sticking point with a lot of people, where there was or I shouldn't say misunderstanding. There was not an understanding of how those two roles should or would work together. How do you see that happening in the future that you're talking about with this budget?
Well, there's
Louder.
in the state of Wisconsin, there's no such thing as an EMS chief. It's a director because it's a service without statutory rights.
They can't hear you.
Your outside voice, John.
Exactly, Joel.
Going forward, it's going to be an EMS director, and the fire chief is the fire chief. He has statutory rights with the state of Wisconsin for fire inspections and burn permits and such. So the director has no part in that.
I guess maybe more in terms of sort of like, do you anticipate a continuation of sort of interpersonal issues with sharing a building, sharing equipment, responding to calls? Because I feel like that's a lot of what people have heard about in the last couple of years.
The two individuals that put that policy in place aren't here anymore. I don't have those policies. If we need, send an email tonight that says, please respond to our calls. Absolutely. More hands are better, wherever they come from.
We have to have their backs and they have to have ours. They would, and so would we.
A lot of the issues that, when you speak about politics, and the politics of all of this is, all of us that sit up here get to hear from our constituents about, are you being true, for our case, trustees of our tax dollars, right? So we have to be we have to apply that transparency. We have to be able to ask those tough questions. We have to look at the payroll and say, why is this person getting more in overtime pay than they are their actual paycheck? We got to ask ourselves those questions, and sometimes that gets misconstrued as politics, right? It's not politics. It's just that we owe our constituents answers, and sometimes it's hard to get those answers. So I just don't want that to be convoluted as just politics as normal.
Jana, is this a clarification
Just
issue?
an observation.
Oh, I'm going to let you go ahead.
Observation. I think this is a great starting point, but I would have you all be mindful that a lot of the items on here, when you're saying it's a fire commission expense, whether it is or not, in the past, that's not how the budget's been laid out. So for example, when you say training or the IT stuff, in the past it's been 50 for the fire department, 50% for EMS, it was broken out, or the fuel was 75%, 25%. So a lot of your true expenses on the EMS side are still not listed here. So when you get ready to compare with the Deer Grove proposal, you're gonna have to keep all those line items still in mind, because, and I'm not saying we should go either direction, I'm just saying it's an observation. When you're looking at Deer Groves, a lot of what you have listed here is in the contract that they're offering. So you have to be very careful that you're comparing apples to apples. Observation only.
I agree with that, and I think there's a big disadvantage here. I'm just gonna say it. I don't care. This is the EMS portion. This is the EMS portion. The commission has their portion, which nobody seems to have except a few of us, which was sent out today by email. So I don't know why. It was sent to all the clerks. I looked on my email. It was sent to all the clerks. So I don't know why they don't have it. There's a whole commission part of $283,000, which gets added on top of this yet.
Correct.
And 75 to fire.
And
That's in the.
Right.
Sent to all the clerks?
That
Yes.
75 isn't part of the 283.
Was sent-
That's on top
Who was
of
it
it.
sent from?
all right, I'm gonna look it up again.
I can just read it to you if anyone wants to write it down. $283,283.
Well, they want to know who it was sent to.
Is the commission budget, and $75,000, this is yearly, annually to fire. So that would be split quarterly and then based on equalized value to each of the municipalities. So that's an additional $358,000 on top of the EMS proposal. And then divided.
And the way I looked at it, I didn't have a lot of time to look at these budgets today, but I looked at the Deer Grove proposal, which is $680-some thousand or whatever for the EMS portion. This is 600. They're close. They're really comparable. The Cambridge and Deer Grove, and then you add the commission onto it. It's within $50,000-$60,000 of each other.
This
So
says EMS
that's-
is 830,000.
Pardon?
This says EMS is 830,000.
That's before the rev run.
Yeah.
The revenue run. The bottom line. The
Oh,
bottom line.
excuse me. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's right. So you're looking at 638 to 645 or whatever Deer Grove proposal was. If you take the 17.
Point of clarification,
17.
I wasn't asked to update a budget to provide an apples-to-apples comparison.
I know you weren't. I'm just
So
talking.
their budget also includes 481 calls, whereas mine only accounted for 400, which means on our end, there's $44,500 extra revenue that we would estimate, lowering the cost. Not only that, the budget lines that Jana referenced, if I knew that we were gonna compare long-term budgets together because of that's what was gonna happen, I would have prepared for that. I was asked to provide a short-term coverage solution for this year, leading into a long-term solution for years to come.
Yep.
I understand that, and but what I'm saying is, it's not $200,000-$300,000 difference here. We're talking less than $100,000 difference between Deer Grove.
Anyway, what's the point, was your point just that it's a relative small difference, and so?
No, my
then was there a
point is, you
conclusion?
guys are operating without all the information tonight, and that's unfortunate that you aren't. It was mentioned by Janet that you aren't comparing apples and apples, and you aren't. We aren't, because we don't have the two complete budgets. I mean, you don't have bottom lines on it.
We don't have bottom lines, but
Right,
here.
because you don't even have the commission portion of which was just given to you.
Here's.
So you can't even compare what's in it and what's not in it. That's my only point.
Here's my concern.
Okay.
Our constituents are not getting what we're paying for. Bottom line, 100%. We had a constituent that had to drive their own family member to a hospital for
I
a
don't know why
heart
you're
attack.
getting angry at me. I'm
And
just
it's
saying you don't have
because
the
we
information on
have
it to
not
make a
been
decision.
paying attention to this, what's going on. We have got to make a change. And I think the only reasonable change for the remainder of the year is to go with Deer Grove, because we know the level of service they are going to be able to provide on day one. I don't want someone to die because we did not provide and do our fiduciary duty and making sure we are getting what we're paying for. And we are not right now.
I don't know why you're angry at me directly at me.
I'm angry at
Well, you
everyone
looked
in
right
this
at
room.
me and for the whole time, so I guess.
the email sent today?
Excuse me, I don't want us to get into this.
Well, it's important.
Well, I think it is important. to
It
hear
is,
the-
but
It
I've
is important.
I've
In the
left
meantime,
it.
Can I ask a
Everybody.
question of our?
We can ask it of ourselves, but I'm gonna go back to this, the listening session. Otherwise, we could be here all night long.
This is why we're here.
Follow parliamentary rules.
This is why we're where we're at.
Parliamentary rules
Hey,
needs to be
Robert's
enforced.
rules of order are you guys don't talk.
Can I,
That's exactly right.
Okay, so stop talking then.
Okay.
And
Can I
stop
answer that?
politicking.
How are we politicking?
Because you're justifying every one of your statements. Stop it. We don't need your personal motivations for why
so-and-so is failing. We need a solution.
Yeah, and
not
we're
a
trying to get
constant
one.
bickering, which is all you're providing.
Okay, I'm gonna go back. Sir.
I want to answer her
Thank you.
question. It's, it was sent today, March 6th, to Lisa Moen, Town of Lake Mills, Dave, Joel Libing, Cambridge Fire, Cambridge Fire and EMS District.com, Clerk of Rockdale, and I guess that was it.
The email didn't state this is the commission budget. The email, is that the email we were?
Yeah,
going
it's right
back
on here.
Where you just said numbers in here are wrong. I didn't know that was the updated commission. I was told that was an email.
There's always more to the story.
I was told that was an email from Sheila Plinkus.
No, that's all.
What time
See,
was
that's
this
the other
email
thing,
sent?
there's too many
I don't
budgets
have-
flying around. Sheila sent one out on February 11th, I've been looking at that one. Then today, we got the updated ones from the commission or whoever, this John Williams.
That's me.
Who's John Williams?
Right there.
Got it today from John.
That's all I said.
Which showed the what you have in front of you. Plus, on the side was the commission one, commission portion.
I
On
think
the
what-
same spreadsheet.
What we can compare is what it will cost us this year, which is really what we need to make a decision on,
Correct.
is what we're gonna do May 1st moving on. And so, if you want, I have it all broken out for what it will cost with what Deer Grove gave us for the rest of the year, including what we've already spent in the first quarter, not including the additional payments that were sent out yet, so just that first quarter assessment, plus comparing to what Cambridge EMS is saying will cost for 2025, which does include those first quarter payments, because that went to y'all. So if that would be helpful,
I think that would be helpful, Bria, but I would like to hear Deer Grove's proposal.
yeah, but I think that's, that's what we can do tonight. That's what we can compare apples to apples, because it doesn't matter what the fire budget is, it doesn't matter what the commission budget is, that's not gonna change.
Correct.
So what we need to decide on is what we're doing May 1st forward. And
Agreed.
that doesn't matter, and the rest of it doesn't matter.
All right, do we have any more questions?
Yes. I
for
have
the-
one.
All right, you got one question?
One question.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's two questions, but they're linked. How, does this proposed budget for the rest of 2025 include the coverage dates that are needed for no paramedic on service and needing to contract with Fort or Lakeside?
Well,
Lakeside's not charging us.
Yeah,
So
Lakeside's
that would-
But that's
Lakeside's
not
free.
the way the proposal reads.
Yeah,
Their
it is. I have the coverage agreement. Lakeside's, he crossed it off, he's not charging us. I
So
went to.
we're not getting charged $58.34 an
The
hour?
Fort Atkinson one, the Fort Atkinson Fire Department is charging us 58 backstaffing for a paramedic.
Right.
But Lakeside is not.
Okay, so one of the proposed, is that built in, because if we're paying our our EMTs, because the way I'm reading that proposal is that our EMTs will get the call, they will respond.
Yep.
They will determine if an ALS service is needed. And then for that contracted day, we are paying $58.34 an hour, which is roughly $1,400.
Yes.
We are also paying for our own two EMTs. If you're ballparking it at $20 an hour, that's $960.
Right.
So that's $2,200 rough dollars.
Right.
Is that included? Are those estimated days of the extra $1,400 per day included in here?
No. This is a long-term plan.
Okay.
This is short-term.
And do you know how many of those days that we are looking at currently right now? I know we've got to hire people.
10 in March.
10 days in March.
Yep.
So 10 days in March at $2,200 roughly.
Correct.
$14,000.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions of the proposal that we have here from the Cambridge area EMS? Okay. Well, John, thank you.
Thank you.
For taking the time to put something together. All right. I think then we would, Deer Grove, their EMS proposal, if you could come on, sir.
You didn't get it? What time was this email sent? We don't have it. I was just gonna ask for it to be forwarded to me.
Yeah, do we want to take a, let's just take a 3-minute break while we get stuff set up here. Stretch your leg.
I was just gonna run upstairs.
Do you want me to forward it to you? I have an email. Yes, please. Okay.
You have, okay, we have a new, I think we have a email. I mean, no,
sorry.
I think.
You keep it up?
But ours automatically bounce.
Lots of numbers.
See, you're talking a lot, so I need to move this mic over.
Oh, I'm loud. Don't worry about it.
You can be loud. I just wanted to double check that.
Use my mom voice, I can use my coach voice, I can use my...
You got it.
Her
voice carries.
The ones that.
Keep this in the center.
We're rocking a 5 and 4.
I'm not saying nothing.
Well, I'll see what it looked like on the original.
Yes.
Oh, it is.
Oh, I emailed you. It's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
Well, you had a nice spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's hard to keep it all.
Just track it. I don't know what's was that EMS better breakdown of it? Is that what
She just said.
Nothing to trip you.
Is that a better breakdown of the budget? I mean.
Thank you. I'm gonna forward.
What do you do? Oh, thank
Yeah.
Once you're like on the street.
Headache. I agree with that too. That's a big thing to take off our plate.
Probably get in like in the evening tomorrow.
Just WI?
Saturday.
Holy shit.
Stop the only place I could. I still had a whole bunch of reservations.
Right.
So
That's what I think. Last numbers brought up from last year. That was
huge last minute.
to get all this
hard to find.
BS. So I bet this is closer. But you don't know.
Fireside see a show.
That is so awesome. I've actually never been.
We've never been there, and Ken and I have we're like, this is one thing we have to
Yes,
do.
for sure.
It's kind of cheesy, and and it was like the only. Like everything was sold out in Madison for reservations.
I wonder.
So we're like, we're just gonna do it.
That's awesome.
David sent it
Ren's
to
been
Art
a couple times to see her. She goes
Because
to
David
her
gave me,
dance teacher.
David gave me.
And is it?
She loved it.
You didn't have to drop off the flag.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It was sent to David.
David Smith.
Yeah.
David Smith back?
Yeah.
It was sent.
Okay.
Okay, so it wasn't sent.
It wasn't
It was sent
necessarily.
to Rockdale, Alicia Hines.
Yep.
Dave Trader, Dave Smith back.
I didn't even notice.
and Jake-
I just took my
John
old one down.
John Williams?
I haven't put
John
this one out
Dealey.
yet.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that was the lighter haired guy. Yep.
Oh my God.
So Lisa didn't get it?
With the fish.
drop off.
Nope.
There you go.
Well, I looked over and I was just.
Memorial Day, I'll give you.
That's okay, I was ordering a new one for my house and I thought.
One of the first
Other villages.
nice stores,
Sweet.
nice and tall.
Very sweet.
I was sneaking past the store, then I'm like opening it up and I'm shoving it in there and I'm like trying to drive out of there really quick. I was trying to like give it a blank look, but then I couldn't.
The sturgeon.
Busted, yeah.
I think I could name.
I was trying to remember Alicia's, because she's got a new government, like we have a new government email.
It's a fillet.
I think it's board president.
Crusted with like bacon and bread.
But I might not have given it
with
to.
a little bit of caviar, sour cream, and caviar.
I might not have given him
Really good combo because you know,
like,
so
that's something to make sure.
you need to drink it.
It'll kick to her, and she said, I don't know how long that's too much. You know, like.
It was boiled. Yeah, so it was easy because you know, but you put the crust on it first and then toast up. So,
Everywhere I
so
can
that's
think
one
of.
option.
Well, you did send it to us. Rockfield to Rockfield board president at rockfield.wi.biz.
Board president at rockdalewi.com.
Yep.
So mine was relatively small, like.
It was like, I remember the pictures are like the same size as you.
But like,
How much did it make?
Mine was like 16.
Really? Oh.
So like it was actually not so like it's actually really good for eating.
Oh, great. Oh,
But like
okay.
my dad and brothers got really good things. Like they said it's so fatty. And they said it's like really gross eating.
Right,
So
yeah.
my dad said this one's actually.
Oh, that's perfect.
preferred.
Oh, good. Oh, that's no.
It also
Yeah, my brother said like he's had like pounders. He said it's all yellow. Like it's so.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Like,
Lucy,
cut from fish.
I think Lucy just got it. She'll
Did?
ask. Didn't you just send it?
Yeah, I got a mail delivery on it.
Hey, I wasn't yelling at you. I want to make that really clear. I know I was just.
I think one lady.
I just.
Hers was like. Oh, I am.
Oh, yeah. So I was not yelling at you. I want to make it perfect.
Because they just stayed a lot of
I was
probably like 100 years old. You know.
No problem.
I did that for my first patient, and I wanted to make sure it was presented.
You come over here.
Yeah, because that is reported for Lakeville's leader, and so yeah, it's public information. No, Jim, you had this sheet here that's a little different than.
My sheet?
That's why I texted him.
No, that's 24, 25.
This one?
I'm like, I don't want to bother us.
Yeah, but I think
That was
yours
kind
is.
of my.
Oh, the one I had on. I didn't print it out. Oh, okay.
Mine's different than yours.
Yeah. You're at 971.
Made the move to
I'm at
get everybody
940.
to paramedic.
So this must have been our first version.
I would personally say. I just got that from David this morning.
But I can tell you that Nadine would have appreciated that.
Thank you.
Her statement. Because you saw how Nadine was feeling it at the last meetings. Lisa said that Lucy has now email sent out. Print it off? All right. Still
We're,
didn't get it.
Yeah, 940.
we're gonna get started here, with our conversation.
One comment, Mark, I did just go upstairs and look, and we did not receive it, the budget. I went upstairs, checked the emails, we received the one-page document
from John Williams. That is all we did receive.
And that was forwarded to all the board.
And yes, the email I received was forwarded to all members of all 4 communities, is exactly what I received today.
Yep, and she's,
So I did just receive, I just received it, and I also wanted to just share that in here, it was not sent, it was sent from
Yep.
Dave Schrader to Town of Lake Mills clerk today at 12:53 p.m. And then from the Town of Lake Mills clerk to James Hines and Thomas Bouchel, and that is it. It did not go out to anybody else, and that was at 2:22 p.m. today.
yep, and I do apologize for putting Lisa on the spot. I read the wrong email with the wrong addresses on it, so she's correct. She didn't get it.
I just want to clarify too that you did forward it to Alicia Hines,
Alicia.
our president, and I think she might be on her way back, but she's in the Dominican, so you do have, and she can't receive email there. So it wasn't forwarded to me, but now he has
Okay.
he has my direct.
All right, so we have some clarification then.
Yeah.
All right.
There wasn't.
But you have it now. Right? All right, she does.
Can I question why it was sent to 2 communities and not the 3rd? Because I have been very diligent when I'm receiving anything of sharing it with everybody at this table. And partially because we are hosting the meeting, but I've been very diligent on that.
I can't answer for John Williams. He sent it originally, so.
Okay.
I don't even know. He said he was just there. He was just there. Yeah.
All righty. Does that take care of that? Okay, let's continue on then with our agenda, and that is the Deer Grove EMS proposal. Sir, if you could just identify yourself.
Sure. My name is Eric Lang. I'm the Chief of EMS for Deer Grove EMS District, which consists of 5 municipalities, 2 by contract, 3 by IGA. The village and town of Cottage Grove, the village of Deerfield, the town of Deerfield by contract, and the north part of the town of Pleasant Springs by contract. I did not speak in public comment because I knew I'd have the pulpit right now, so I have a soapbox moment or two. Because of this current situation, debacle, stuff, Deer Grove EMS has been adversely affected, and our residents have been adversely affected by the lack of an ability to reliably respond. So that is where some of our concern lies and why we become involved. Our primary mutual aid provider to our east, which is Deerfield, is Cambridge, and when Cambridge has an unreliable resource, it potentially adversely affects our district to the east, and that causes us, or the east portion of our district, that causes us concern. As a department, we give way more mutual aid to every community throughout the county than we receive in return. So the hope would be that in return, we get what we would give. And of recent, we haven't gotten that. We've had, for sure, 3 residents that have potentially adversely been affected by the inability of Cambridge either to actually respond or provide appropriate care while responding. We have concerns about the contracts that Carrie happened to mention, in that they say near vicinity. I don't believe that either Lakeside or Fort Atkinson want to be involved in tagging along on mutual aid calls for us. So because of that, we're in the process of ensuring that we can't have Cambridge selected as a mutual aid partner to respond in our communities and potentially delay life-saving care to the residents that pay for us. We can't take that risk. So to mitigate that risk, we'll be working to at least in the short term, not request Cambridge EMS because of the unknown of ability and how they're responding. We'll address some comments that have been made, whether paper or meetings. Competitive rates. We've established our rates are competitive. We're in the ballpark of what everyone has. Our proposal that was provided is used at the state level by the Office of Rural Health for an example of what it costs to provide EMS service in the state and age today. We are local. not only 53% of our full-time staff, but right around 50% of our volunteer staff are from the area and within 10 minutes of not only our district, but your district. In fact, as mentioned, we have members of our department that live in the Cambridge district. To say that we're not a local resource is inaccurate. We've always attempted to keep the interest of your community in mind when proposing service. We could have certainly said, absolutely, we'll run your calls from Deerfield all the time, but that's not the way we've approached any of this. We've approached this, your constituents demand a reliable resource in the community, so that's how we've approached all of this. Finally, we talked about some of this already when looking at the proposed contract from Cambridge and the contract that we built in, refresh your memory, August of 2024. There's differences between them, hence the difference in cost. There's a difference of $132,000. I wrote this down on a piece of paper and I don't have the piece of paper right now. It's about $132,000 in difference between what their proposal of $638 and our proposal of $7,500 is. $70,000 of that can be eaten up with things in our contract or our proposal that aren't in the proposal from Cambridge EMS. Knowing how EMS staffings work, as a side note, I suspect their wages are a little bit low, but that's for you guys to figure out. Finally, what we have to offer you aside from this agreement is stability. We've been in business for 45 plus years, since 1978. I would venture to guess that we were probably established at the same time the original Cambridge EMS was. We've had our trials and tribulations throughout the years, but put in the work to stay on top and provide a reliable service to our constituents. In my tenure with Deer Grove EMS, starting on January 2nd, 2019, we've been within our budget. We've built our fund balance to make it so that we have a rainy day fund so that we can potentially defray costs by using it responsibly. Those are the things that we have to offer as part of this, not only, we'll call it a la carte proposal, to transition into a long-term proposal. So most people that wanted it have an agreement, not an agreement, this is a proposal because there's more work to do after this. So the meat and bones of this proposal is that we will ensure all of your 911 calls are covered by paramedics for $1,750 a day. That calculates out to $427,000 for the rest of the year. There's some legal terms in here that would be included in the agreement, like we want to get paid monthly on the first of the month prior to providing that service, largely because of the financial history of the district. We want to make sure that we don't get too far behind and that we don't get paid, and that our residents don't, the residents of the Deer Grove EMS district don't foot the bill of coverage. We want to make sure that this does transition into a long-term agreement. The a la carte transitioning into long-term is important to us. We see that we have the ability, once we forge forward, make a long-term agreement, to have 8 full-time staff stationed here in Cambridge. We run a 24/72 schedule. So to answer some questions about overtime, there isn't an EMS schedule that doesn't have overtime built into it. The 24/72 mitigates that overtime a little bit at the expense of paying a little bit more in benefits. But it's the schedule that's going to be common in EMS because it builds good work-life balance. I think important for everyone else to know is that it's also contingent upon us using one of your ambulances and your facilities to make sure that that is out in the open. We want to respond from Cambridge. We don't want to respond from Deerfield. We don't have really the capability. I mean, we could stuff 2 people into a bedroom at Deerfield, but we don't want that. You don't want that. So that would be something we won't do. And just some clarification things in here. In the long-term agreement that we wrote, there was stuff for building maintenance and insurance and some of the other costs are associated, that we would pay work comp for our staff, building maintenance, vehicle maintenance. Those are all things that aren't in part of this, that it's still your equipment, so we would ask that you maintain the ambulance and the building during this period of time. Assuming that the path forges forward with a long-term agreement, we would then have that built into our budget for the bigger portions of the building maintenance on the whatever facility we would be occupying. We will take care of costs of replacing medical supplies, just because our stuff might be different. We want to make sure that we can order the stuff that we like to use, and it takes it off of someone else to have to order it. We wouldn't expect that the Cambridge district would maintain someone that could order EMS supplies for us.
Chief, I think in the spirit of fairness, I want to ask the same question I asked the other gentleman that briefed, and that is, can you clarify and go into detail a little bit more on the overtime?
On our budget?
Yes.
That's all scheduled overtime.
Okay. And what does that equate to?
Our staff works a 24/72 schedule, so that means for 2 weeks they'll work 48, then 1 week they'll work 24. So they get 16, and then they actually work fewer than 20,040 hours in a year, because 1 week is a 24-hour week.
I got you.
So while we say we work an average of a 42-hour work week, that's just the hours. We're paying somewhere in the area of 650 hours of overtime per person.
And that's in your latest collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. The 24/72.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
And you said this is based on 8 paramedics, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so talking about the short term, the $17.50 per day, is that you providing 24-hour service for that, not having Cambridge EMTs responding, anything like that, you would be taking?
We would be, well, if anybody from Cambridge wanted to respond, we would have to fold them into our operation.
Into your operation. Okay.
But the $17.50 is taking responsibility for all calls for service.
All calls. Okay.
That starts when?
Well, this proposal is based off of May 1st, 244 days.
Okay, thank you.
What would the housing requirement be? Would you be responding from our station?
Absolutely.
And would there be a housing requirement built in for 2025?
Would be the same as that.
The same as what we have now would be sufficient for what
Yeah,
you would need.
as long as everything stays in the current form. I have some concerns with staff in the middle of the night on a rainy or snowy, not necessarily rainy, but snowy or icy night, walking across a handmade sidewalk. That sounds like a liability nightmare and something we can work on going forward, but they're the facilities that are available, and we'll work within whatever we can.
Eric, when you were here before, you had talked about the run fees, and you were estimating those. What did you have for an estimate in 2025?
We estimated 400 runs at $550 per run, so $220,000 for the year. Now I'll say with the long-term contract, we were willing to take the risk of undershooting. With the a la carte, we're not willing to take that risk. So we know that we're going to get revenue. We just don't really know how much, and that's why you have the $17.50 per day to ensure that we cover costs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Can you remind me what the pricing structure changes to if we were to move forward with the longer term contract?
Well, the 2025 portion of the agreement showed that the full cost without any revenue sources was $995,500. So then you take off the $220,000, and that gets down to the $220,000 gets down to the $770,500, and that's for 4 communities only. If you added in a potential fifth community, that would reduce the overall cost because of added run revenue, about another $100,000.
But your expense stays the same.
Correct. Even with the extra 100 call or 200 calls for an additional community, as John had said, we believe one ambulance can adequately handle that, and that even at 400 calls, to adequately respond to your geolocation, you need one ambulance in the area.
With the current state of our EMS and needing service agreements with different areas, we talked a little bit about the legacy agreement that we used to have with Deer Grove that was $1,000 a day that we utilized a few years ago when Bob was hurt and all of that. And we talked, that isn't sufficient to cover costs now because of staffing and costs of everything, of course. Did they reach out to you at all for coverage, for our coverage gaps?
No one reached out for coverage. In fact, no one alerted us to the fact that they wouldn't have paramedics.
Okay. And this increase to the $1,750 a day, again, from that $1,000 before, accounts for increases in wages, increases in cost of medical equipment.
Medical equipment, admin time. When we made this agreement, I'm pretty sure we were at $15 an hour for our casual staff, and that's what we based the $1,000 per day price off of. We're now at $23.50 per hour for casual staff. That cost alone, with the full cost of wages and the benefits we do pay the casual staff, is about $1,400, and that's if we can get casual staff. So we knew that staffing with that casual model is difficult, and there's no way that we're going to be able to fill every single day of the week that we need with casual staff. So we anticipate that we're going to have to hire back full-time staff members at an average cost of $60 per hour as opposed to $23.50.
And Chief, it's my understanding that you do your own billing, that's not a cost that our commission would be absorbing?
No, that would be part of, we use EMSMC just like Cambridge does. Our process is, we have a very robust internal billing review process before it goes to EMSMC, which increases our expected capture from revenue. Mm-hmm. So that is a cost that the commission or district wouldn't. I mean, it's part of the budget, so I guess they're paying it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there were some, if I recall correctly, and this would be more of a long-term thing, there was a few things in the long-term proposal or long-term discussion that the administrative side of it, the payroll side of it, the billing, all of that would be expenses that would be included in your proposal, correct?
Correct. The long-term proposal actually includes helping or paying half of a office person, which then we discussed that we would be able to do district bill pay and have those functions added in. But when we add in 8 extra paramedics to our roster, we're already bursting at the seams for what the office manager, myself, and our deputy chief can do. So adding 8 additional paramedics plus 400 or more calls tips that over the edge a little bit. So it would be half the wages and benefits of an office person.
And your service is 2 paramedics, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us how many days in the last year or that you foresee of not having a paramedic level service running?
Never.
How are your
And
staffing levels?
I'll answer a little bit more completely and in a way that I probably shouldn't, because periodically we do have to rely upon people from our volunteer group, whether it be an EMT or an AEMT, to fill out the full-time group or casual group because of sick or injury. I'd say we've probably had 3 shifts like that, 3 12-hour shifts this year where we've utilized an AEMT, but that's with a paramedic. We've never had a day where we haven't, if a paramedic is on, or an ambulance is on duty, it hasn't been paramedic. I would say our op plan does allow for that, but we don't plan to work that way.
So you're saying you'd provide us with a paramedic service every single day?
Correct.
Is that paramedic on site, Cambridge? Is that paramedic on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Paramedic on every ambulance.
Yeah.
At least one.
Pardon?
At least one paramedic on every ambulance.
All right. The last time you were here, a month or so ago, you talked about radios. Difference between what Cambridge uses now and what you use? It's like a $44,000.
Oh,
That's your heart monitor.
That was a heart monitor. Oh,
yeah, that's a cardiac monitor.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. We would still ask with the a la carte agreement. We'll make adjustments. At the graces of Dane County EMS, we have a loaner monitor. So for the a la carte agreement, we'll be able to manage. But that can't be something that can be used any longer than the 7 months because it's a Dane County monitor, and any other department within Dane County could have a failure that they would need it for.
And we could sell our current monitors, the
Trade
ones
in
we
some of
currently use, to help offset the cost if we have to buy a new one.
I'd venture to guess it probably has more value as a trade-in than on the open
sure.
market, but sure.
Right.
Yep.
And Jim, you and I were at a meeting in Lake Mills a couple of weeks ago, and Ryan Brothers was talking about just having upgraded to all the Zoll monitors in their ambulances as well, too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then as far as dispatch, do you work out of Jefferson County for this area, or would it all be?
Everything for Dane County would come out of Dane County.
But I mean, okay, but Lake Mills isn't in Dane County.
I mean, we have the ability to communicate with Jefferson County. We're programmed to communicate with Jefferson County, but isn't those portions of the town of Lake Mills getting paged by Dane County right now anyway?
There's a portion of Cambridge in Jefferson County.
I know.
Okay.
They're all on Dane County Pulse Point. Yeah, they're all Dane County.
I'm pretty sure the 5% of your township that's on the border of the county gets dispatched by Dane County.
We're considered a Dane County EMS, so it is all Dane County.
I wasn't aware of that, I guess. I thought that.
As is the Jefferson County portion of Cambridge.
Okay.
What's your take on the fire department and EMR?
I'm working with all of our other 2 fire departments to get to that point. And if they're willing, we would encourage.
Okay.
And as far as them being able to respond to medical calls as volunteer EMR,
Yeah, I think the cleanest way, and it's going to be whatever they would want, but I think what we discussed last time was that if they wanted to have their own provider license and their own op plan and all those things, cool. Have at it, we'll support that. Or if they wanted to make a model where they're members of our department and responding under our licensure and all that stuff, it might take some of the responsibility off of Cambridge Fire to have to worry about keeping up with all the things necessary.
Do you have a good relationship with Cambridge Fire right now?
I think so.
Okay, good, thank you.
I mean, I guess to be honest, I wouldn't be the one to ask that. You'd have to ask them.
I was asking you, but your opinion.
Yes, they do.
Good, thank you. Have you talked to the town of Oakland and at all? And
what do you consider talking?
Any considerations that you could share?
Just very brief, very high level.
Okay. Thank you.
What do you see as challenges to stepping in as our service?
Staff.
Okay.
I think I see that as a challenge every day of the week.
Every day. Okay.
You had said when you were here previously that our current staff would have an opportunity to apply.
Absolutely.
To work for Deer Grove, so it wouldn't be, we don't want you, it would be to work out of our station, and you had said they wouldn't necessarily be designated to be Cambridge, they would be understood, they would cover all of your district.
Yeah, and I think some of that, to get into the minutia, would be, it depends on what level of a member they join on our department as. If they're a volunteer, certainly we would encourage that they volunteer with their own community. We're not going to take a Cambridge volunteer over to Cottage Grove and be like, yeah, get to know these folks over here. You don't need to be in Cambridge. So it's all going to depend upon what level they join as, and then the response matrix that we set up for Cambridge. You know, as it stands right now with Deer Grove, we have few volunteers in the community, so no one responds directly to the scene. The majority of our staff, I'll say almost all of our staff, are in-house and responding within 2 minutes when the pager goes off. That's something we can evaluate for Cambridge to see if it's an adjustment we make. I say this, we just discussed it with our medical director the other day. Medicine
that could be part of your plan. And I know it's been hard, right? It's why we went to a paid service, because it's hard to maintain an EMT license and just volunteer to do that.
Yeah, I think the expectation of mine would be similar to the other parts of our district, that the volunteer would augment, and maybe I understand that there's a lot of special events around. That's certainly members of the volunteer group can help out and be single ambulances for those events. Like I talked about, I know that volunteers just don't want to feel like the third wheel. None of our volunteer group that have made it through orientation want to always be just kind of the third person or an observer. So we try to find opportunities for them to be primary providers on calls for service. I think if you ask our paramedic group, they enjoy having people that can take the calls that maybe don't have a paramedic level acuity, that someone else can learn from and develop their own skill set.
Eric, the proposal that we have, it starts on May 1st, 2025, ends on December 31st, 2025, calls for $1,750 per day. Any idea what your increases have been, what we might expect in 2026 and thereafter?
I expect a contract in 2026.
Okay.
I don't expect an a la carte agreement in 2026.
If we went back with Oakland, so as it
And basically, when you divide 7,500 by 365, if memory serves, that's $2,100 per day. But that guarantees you an ambulance in Cottage Grove, in Cambridge every day of the week.
and Rockdale.
I'll rescind that. In the Cambridge Metroplex.
Thank you. We're in the suburbs over here.
Oh, I like that. Can I take one question and just step back a little bit? So you said your estimated overtime, correct me if I'm wrong, was roughly 640 hours per employee? Something in that ballpark. And so you said for 8 employees, right, approximately. So we're talking about 5,100 hours, which is about 2,400 hours less than what we currently want.
It should be.
How many hours left?
If theirs is 640 for 8 employees, that's 5,120, and last year Cambridge ran 7,560 on average
7,560 hours?
of overtime.
Okay.
So you're talking just shy of 2,400.
Eric, this is a la carte. I know you're looking for a long-term agreement. What position, if any, would the Cambridge area EMS have when it comes to governing and being on your decision board?
This is a repeat question from the last meeting, and I would say that it's an open for discussion, but it would have to financially make sense for everybody involved. If you have concerns about operations, I don't know why we would take this on and then not be concerned and listen about the concerns you might have and make adjustments as necessary. This isn't you've signed on the dotted line, take what we give you and like it. This is a working relationship that provides a necessary service to all communities.
You're talking about the commission, the relationship with the commission.
The commission would engage them, and then we
Can
would.
you speak up?
My question had to deal with having a voice on the affairs that the EMS that would be provided services by Deer Grove. Right now, the commission, you oversee the EMS as you do the fire department. But if we were to serve a contract with Deer Grove, then what voice do we have?
It would still be through the commission, Mark.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
I'll answer that a little bit differently for you, Mark. I anticipate that I would be present at each of your commission meetings. I would advocate that you have monthly commission meetings on the same day of the month so that we can plan and schedule. And that I would be present for those to answer any questions, and if there's concerns, figure out what adjustments we can make within the contract.
This might sound like a dumb question, but would you see any reason why we could not reach out to community leaders of the communities that you serve and talk with them about your service or quality of service, anything like that?
I'd encourage it.
One thing to go along with that, how much of a turnover do you have with your people, your EMS?
It's an unfair question. It's an unfair question.
It's not.
Because we just hired 2 new people. We had one person leave to go be a deputy chief. We had another person leave to go for more money. I would say our core 8 have been here nearly 10 years, the first 8 paramedics, and then the rest have been here incrementally 2.5, 2, 1, and baby.
Things do come up, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of turnover. Our benefits and compensation package is very competitive. The schedule, sorry, I skipped words there. The schedule is attractive as well in that, every 3 weeks you work a Wednesday. And that it's seven days a month, whereas 48.96 can be up to 10.
And what's the spread of EMT basic, advanced EMT, paramedics within your staff?
That's a very good question. Our paid staff are all paramedic. So between the full-time group and the casual group, those are all paramedics, including myself. In our volunteer group, we have 20, and it's pretty evenly split between EMTs, advanced EMTs, and paramedics.
Can you speak to your medical director, just how long they've been with you?
We've been with MEP, which is Madison Emergency Physicians, and SSM Health EMS program since, I think, January 1, 2020. Or late 2019, something like that. And we were with Dr. Steer out of Stoughton Hospital for 5 years before that. As Dr. Schultz can testify, being a medical director for an ambulance agency is very time consuming. So the demands that we had on Dr. Steer were a little bit greater than he was willing to provide at that time. And MEP provides medical direction to something like a third of the EMS agencies in the county.
Okay.
So, excuse me, we know based on this, for the a la carte, what the cost is going to be to our commission or our communities. Do you have any idea, or can you give us an idea, if we sign a contract with you, I'm still not getting a number for 26 or
$2,100.
Yeah, so in the
it'd be
proposal.
that's what it would be.
Yeah.
But that's the 25 number.
For 2020.
So we have to negotiate a labor contract this year. So part of 26, when you look at we have layers, we're like ogres today. You're supposed to laugh at that. This is a proposal that was built specifically for Oakland and Cambridge, as we discussed. That gave a glimpse of future years, but we had the unknown of a labor contract that we have to negotiate. We made guesses at where that labor contract was going to land for 2026. So I would certainly guess that $1,089,550 will be very close to what the 2026 budget will be, but I can't guarantee that today.
Yeah, there's a lot unknown with collective bargaining.
Yeah, I mean, fuel could go up to $10 a gallon. What we have listed in the proposal given to Cambridge and Oakland for 2026 is $1,089,550 before revenue. And then revenue would be estimated just for, based off of these calculations from August, we modestly estimated 420 calls, so that's $231,000 as revenue. Now, if using the Cambridge numbers, they suspected 480 calls this year, we could safely say that would be 500 calls for 26. That would put that number up to whatever 500 times 550 is.
Thank you.
275,000. No, I mean, we're tons of speculation on that. So, but Oakland would add 200 plus calls on top of that.
Oakland would add what?
200, at least 200 more calls. That's historically what Oakland has had. Is that Oakland has been about 200, Cambridge has been about 200, and the other three communities have been about 200.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just can you clarify, in that contract, you're saying that we would be able to realize our own revenue from payouts?
You would be able to realize the revenue that we reimburse, yes, in this long-term proposal.
Okay. It's a reimbursement.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
So if Oakland were to come back in to this commission in 26, and you want a long-term, or you want us to start at least negotiating a long-term contract by June, we need to get out and talk to Oakland to see if they're interested. How would those numbers change if Oakland were part of this?
The physical cost to provide the service would remain unchanged. What would change is the amount of revenue we're able to, so the gross cost would still be
the
1,100,000. I like round numbers.
Okay.
So gross cost would be 1,100,000. Let's say that there's 700 calls total as we update times 550. That's not that number.
If you're looking at like bottom line EMS cost for 2026, if it's just the four of us, it'd be about $775,000, and we add Oakland in there, it's about $675. So which is effectively what the rest of this year is going to cost us anyway. So getting Oakland back into the conversation is only going to benefit us financially. It won't change their operation because you still staff the same amount of humans, you still do all of the same stuff. It just makes them more money, which costs us less.
Yeah, I'd suspect 1,100,000 minus 385 is 715. This is not anywhere written in stone. This is you asking me to shoot from John Wayne it from the hip, and unfortunately I'm willing. So,
which is effectively what we pay. I mean, this is what all of these proposals are now. So it's not some astronomical $1.8 million overhead that we got from our commission.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Point of clarification. So we talked about June 30th. June 30th is the date that if Oakland were to decide anything, they'd have to give notice to other communities. that can't be the date that you decide to get this stuff rolling, because we have if you go this route, we get on the rails to go this route. I need a contract with y'all done by my August commission meetings, because that's when our own budget process starts.
So we had talked at the last meeting. The reason we wanted the meeting today with the numbers, so that we could decide if we wanted to go here, so then we could immediately turn around and start those conversations with Oakland to see if they would be interested in coming in with us. And then we could have those discussions in March, early April, and then we can come back and start negotiating in April timeframe for the 2026 and forward contracts. That's what we talked about the last time we met. So I would think we'd still be working on that kind of timeline.
Yeah, and we're going to have, this version is a draft proposal that needs to go from this to a contract that all parties can agree upon. And I'd like to think that it's just two commissions negotiating a contract, but it's not. It's two commissions and 7 municipalities. So that adds the extra layer of complication in it. And I've joked with Mr. Hahn about this already, but there's going to be lawyers involved too. That's going to take some time. So the primary thing we need to work through is the a la carte. While in the background you're working on the long term, so that we can get the a la carte ready to go for May 1st.
And do you have the authority or foresee any issues with your governing bodies having risk assessment with taking on our district?
I think there is concern, and it's because of everything, true or not, that's read in the newspapers, not only with personnel issues, financial issues, contracts, inability to meet commitments. Those are all things that we're all having to work through. I commit to you this, I have big shoulders, and I'll help push the wall down.
So you foresee this being something successful that you are looking forward to?
It's going to be a lot of work on everyone's part to get to the a la carte. Then we'll be able to take a little bit of a breath to get to the long term. But we can't lose focus of we have deadlines to meet.
So ultimately people to take care of, right? Like,
yeah, the a la carte takes care of that for the short term.
For now, right.
Your 7 municipalities and 2 commissions have given a green light to this?
Well, I'm 3 on.
Okay.
It was your commission is one of them, and your 4 communities are part of that equation. Because y'all will have to approve anything that we work out, or anybody here works out.
But your part of that is good with this. If we said, yes, Deer Grove, we're going with you, would there be a situation where you'd come and say, oh, sorry, we can't do it?
My work and my stress goes up a little bit, but we'll sell it and we'll make it work.
You're the only one in the room that knows what's going on. Thank you.
What about building maintenance, vehicle maintenance? Is that on you or is that on?
For this year, that is not something that we put into the agreement. So hopefully, oil changes and minor stuff on the ambulances, a couple $1,000s, whatever needs to happen with the building, would be something that wasn't worked into, because now you're trying to turn something that's an a la carte agreement into a full contract.
Contract is signed in, what happens?
We would take care of all the ambulance maintenance, so that we wouldn't have to work through layers of, if we have a broke axle, waiting for permission from a commission to fix a broke axle. If we have a broken door in a building, we would have building maintenance funds in our agreement to cover those costs. Expecting, and the way we go about it is that we have budgeted expenses, and as long as our expenses stay within those budget, that's our operating budget. We don't need to ask permission for those. It's when you have an ambulance that blows up and you need a $50,000 engine, then that's something that you have to ask permission for. So we hope those things don't happen, and I should not set myself up.
What percentage of that went up in Cambridge after
you get a contract.
Correct. Comparing the proposed long-term agreement to what Cambridge EMS has, we both have $15,000 in vehicle maintenance. I think we both had $10,000 for fuel. The hope would be that the vehicle that we operate is the newer of the vehicles, and this is all thinking of the things that are in my head out loud for you, because I don't know if $15,000 per year is enough to maintain a potentially 10-year-old ambulance. Just from experience.
Okay. Any other questions that we have? Anybody here to ask? All right, I think.
What happens between today and May 1st? And your suggestion, Eric, or the municipalities, you have that plan in place, and if your road would participate in that plan?
I can sell a May 1st start for sure. That gives us enough time to get everything in place. I think some of the things I mentioned about hesitancy, if we try to rush into something, it's going to cause grief. And unfortunately, my only recommendation might be that you'll have to rely upon the Dane County system to respond to calls if for some reason the doors shutter. Which means we'd be running the calls, but without compensation. I'm not encouraging that.
Under Mavis Street.
Well, standard mutual aid, not Mavis.
Carrie, you didn't have any questions from Dane County Emergency Management, did you?
No, I think my only question would be to Bob's point, what would it look like from now until May 1st?
All right, thank you. Okay, seeing as that there are no more questions, Eric, we thank you for coming before us and explaining your proposal. It's, interim proposal, working towards some kind of a longer-term contract.
A la carte, we like French.
All right. Okay. I think we're going to kind of get around to this, but move on to item C, IGA requirements for decision-making on the EMS contract. And I guess what I'm asking is, where do we want to go with the two proposals that we've got? And is that something that we can include in here, and with this decision-making on the EMS contract?
This was a question.
Yeah, I think the question is, what do we need? You know, is it a majority vote? Do we need each board to unanimously approve a change, like per the IGA? What are our options, and how do we even make a decision? You know, is it the majority of the boards? Is it each board has to agree unanimously? I mean, Christiana doesn't have a quorum, so they can't provide a vote tonight. So is it, you know, if the other three of us vote one way, is that sufficient? Is that majority what we need, or does it need to be unanimous, in which case, without Christiana's participation, we can't even make a decision tonight? So I think that, you know, before we can even decide, we have to know what we have to do, what process says we have to do to move forward.
Dave, has this come up at all? You know, would three of us be able to make a decision knowing that Christiana didn't have their representative here?
It's got to be in the IGA.
Yeah, I was under the assumption that something like this would have to be a unanimous vote. If it requires a IGA change. Michael, do you have any comment?
This is just, I think if based on the proposal.
Michael, can you introduce yourself first? Because
Yes. And can you come up here and talk so we catch you on?
Thank you. My name is Michael Hahn. I am the commission attorney. And based on the
description of the proposal for Deer Grove is essentially turning EMS service into a contract service. So we're essentially contracting with Deer Grove and I think that is a fundamental change just in terms of a process standpoint. That's going to be a fundamental change of the IGA that would be considered an amendment to the IGA, because we're no longer providing it. The commission does not have direct oversight over the EMS director or the employees. It's going to be something that I think is an amendment. The amendment process requires a majority vote of all commissioners and then a certified copy of a resolution adopted by each municipality. So ultimately, if this is going to be the course of action, I think it is going to be it would require a unanimous vote of the municipalities that comprise the commission. So the process would be vote by the commissioners, whether to amend the IGA to allow this to go forward, and then each municipality is going to have to adopt a resolution for whatever the amendment is. And so it would be unanimous in this case. It doesn't have to be unanimous in each board. So there can be division within, it could be a 5-4 or a 4-3 decision in each municipality, but ultimately it's going to have to be adopted by each municipality.
So the commission would be a majority.
The commission, a majority of the commissioners, so the 4 representatives to the commission would have to vote. 3 of them would have to agree to do this. And then it would go to each of the municipalities, and each municipality would have to approve that amendment. One point in addition to that, just setting aside the IGA, if we were to do that, I think it would be viewed by, or could be viewed by, the collective bargaining unit as a dissolution or a breach of the CBA that we are under until the end of this year. So there is a complicating issue there because we essentially
termination. We've got. Didn't you negotiate that?
Isn't there severance?
The severance and stuff
yes,
included in that. So
yes, but that doesn't just be. Yes, that represents an additional cost. It also doesn't mean that if we just stop that they're going to go. We'd have to negotiate.
I thought they negotiated that in the collective bargaining agreement. We'd have to give them a 60-day notice.
I think that isn't that layoff and
for layoffs? Yes.
For layoffs, and the rest was a dissolution.
Yep. So, I'm not saying that it's going to end in litigation. I'm not saying that it's not something that can't be worked out. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody understands that is a potentially complicating factor, and something that will, I think, at a minimum, represent additional expense. How much that expense would be, I don't know off the top of my head.
I think one of the things that I'm concerned with is the method of operation for a lot of individuals has been lawsuit, complaint, blah, blah, blah. It reaches a state of kind of fear-mongering into keeping us in line with our current service. And so I think that's what I have an issue with, is every time somebody says, well, it could be a lawsuit or it could be this. I mean, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow and that.
I want to be clear that I don't think, and I have consistently taken the position that I don't believe that the commission has the ability to file a lawsuit against any of the municipalities. And I don't believe that the commission is the arbitration that's currently pending that was initiated by the town of Oakland. The commission was named as one of the parties to that. I don't think the commission is properly a party to it, because ultimately the budget decision, the final budget decision, is made by the municipalities. I would absolutely prefer not to be involved in that litigation. I don't want to be involved in that. And I don't think that it's a good use of commission funds or your own funds. So I'm not trying to say that that there has to be a lawsuit or anything like that. The Deer Grove proposal can be done, and I think if a majority of the commission and all the municipalities want to go that route, great. I think that's fine. Whatever you ultimately decide. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't live in your community. I don't have any say or influence over how the commission or the EMS or the fire services is run. My job is to provide legal advice, and that's it. And unfortunately, sometimes that does include, there is the potential for litigation, not because I want it to go that way, it's just because it is. But from the Deer Grove proposal, I think it does require an amendment, and it's not that the issues there can't be worked out short of it. It's just something that does have to be worked out before it can be done.
Mr. Hahn, I got a question based on that, though. If you're stating that the IGA would require an amendment, it states right here on the first page of the IGA that the towns can contract for emergency or medical services, and the villages can contract for EMS services. And so, what am I?
Are you looking at the recitals, Chris?
I'm looking at the first page of the IGA. Yeah. That copies were made for everyone.
2018.
Yeah.
So I think my interpretation,
So
I'm
that's-
not a lawyer,
that's-
is
Yeah, no. And Chris, the reason that is those are the.
I don't think we would need an amendment because we're just contracting for EMS services.
No, what you're looking at there is these are referred to as the recitals of a contract, where you're laying the predicate for the agreement that's to follow, and so you're citing in here that, hey, the towns can establish, those statutes allow towns to establish a joint fire district and contract for EMS services. Villages are allowed to do that under Chapter 61. And then Chapter 66 allows for municipalities to enter into the intergovernmental agreements. Therefore, because you have those powers, we're entering into this agreement. And then the agreement itself is what controls.
Okay.
And the agreement provides that you're going to create a commission that is going to oversee and provide EMS services for your respective municipalities. That's what the agreement provides. What's this prefatory language that you're referring to, Chris? That's all it is.
It's the legal justification.
It's the legal justification for entering into the actual agreement. But because the agreement itself, the whole structure of the agreement contemplates that there's going to be a commission. The commission's going to appoint an EMS director and oversee the provision of EMS services, whether by volunteers or actual paid employees and personnel. That being the case, what Chief Lang described isn't, they're not going to be commission employees. They're not going to be directly under the oversight of the commission. They're going to be, we're going to have to enter into agreements for, and resolve the issue of building maintenance, building use, equipment maintenance, all those things that the commission and the municipalities own. So because you're essentially changing the structure of the IGA, I think that is going to require an amendment. And I think that is going to be something that has to be unanimously determined by the municipalities. I'm relatively confident that from the conversations that we've had in the course of the arbitration litigation initiated by the town of Oakland, in the conversation among the municipality's attorneys, I'm fairly confident that that counsel for Lake Mills and Christiana also sees it as essentially an amendment of the IGA that would require unanimous approval. I have not spoken to the Village of Cambridge's attorney about that specifically, so I don't know what her position would be, but I think ultimately all four are going to have to approve that.
So I think what I'm hearing is you can interpret it one way, their attorneys can interpret it a different way, our attorneys can interpret it a different way. Who actually makes the decision on that interpretation if we all differ?
I can speak to the history of this. When Boardman and Clark drafted this in 2018, that was considered, and it was enacted, and an opinion was received when we did contract with Deer Grove to provide at a daily rate services to the Cambridge district. So, Chris, I think you're correct. I think that was the intent of the Boardman and Clark draft. And then we tried it in when we needed Deer Grove by contract to service the community.
Sorry, Mr.
And those are-
Salov, did you say it wasn't an amendment at that time? Did you say it wasn't an amendment?
It was not an amendment.
So
That was my understanding was that that's also for, that contract is for essentially temporary emergency provision of care if we weren't able to, if the commission's own EMS personnel were not able to provide services. Is that correct?
I think we're showing that today.
No, I understand.
We can't provide the services, so we need
Yes.
to contract with someone else.
And
it's
those
Dave-
types of agreements for the like the kind where if we aren't able to provide the paramedic level service, and so we have to have a coverage agreement or something like that. Those are ideally temporary situations, and we're not going to be relying on those for the EMS service itself. The proposal that Deer Grove has, which, again, if the municipalities want to go that route, and all four of you agree, I don't care. I really, it does not matter to me. Whatever your four municipalities decide is in everybody's best interest, that's fine. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just trying to, but so what we're talking about though is not something where it's a stopgap. This is
Actually, it
EMS
is for this year. For the remainder of this year, it is a stopgap because we are not getting the services we're paying for.
And then the EMS, so there would be no more Cambridge EMS personnel.
Which is not
They
in
would
the
be-
IGA at all.
So
Cambridge
no-
area EMS is not outlined in our IGA at all.
But the IGA sets up the commission to oversee
An EMS provider.
correct, but not to the level of what was just proposed, what the Deer Grove proposal is.
I think for temporarily, I think it can. And we have precedents that we've used it in the past, and it hasn't needed an amendment.
Is it a control thing? Is it that the commission doesn't have control over Deer Grove?
It's partly a control, and it's partly the commission would be, so it would simply be contracting for all EMS services.
Which part of the IGA
So-
would require an amendment?
I think when you look at the, when it's section 2.1.1, which sets out the duties and authorities of the commission, and it's going through and it's setting up a structure where you didn't create a commission to then contract with another entity
But that's
to
what we do
provide
with
it.
the fire department.
And you did that in the IGA. You specified that you're contracting with the fire department, and that's fine.
So section 2.1.1.
Yes, if you look at all of those duties, if
Letter O.
Yep.
It says contracting for such
Yep.
services as are required to operate the district within the budget parameters established by the municipalities. This would not fall into that?
because it also said, the rest of that is, and Articles 4, Section 4.4, including legal and accounting services. So, again, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but if you look at the what you're giving the authority for the commission to do and all those other portions, when you identify including legal and accounting services, we're talking about the ancillary support or professional services that may need to be required. So you don't have to have a full-time attorney on staff, you don't have to have a full-time accountant on staff, those types of things. It's not the core function of the commission itself. And so that's the difference there. It's again, in my opinion, it's not something where, and I understand the point where, okay, it's a stopgap measure for the rest of the year, but, one, we've got to work through the CBA issue, and, that can be worked through. It doesn't have to, I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it does have to be done, and there's uncertainty there, how that's going to get worked out. And then you're essentially taking and switching it to the EMS service, and the same setup that you currently have, that the commission currently has with the volunteer fire department, where there's funding for it, and you own the equipment, but there's limited oversight. Chief Evans is responsible for the oversight and discipline and stuff like that of the firefighters. And the commission is set up as the oversight and discipline and direction for the EMS.
And I think
Now, whether or not that's been
Only for the EMS director.
no, it's EMS. It's for all EMS employees.
The question that because I
Yeah.
smirked and you smirked at the same
No,
time.
I know the complaints. I know that hasn't been properly done.
I mean,
I
we don't
get it.
have
No.
oversight over anything. And I think that some of our concern is that we have stated over and over and over again, this should not be our wheelhouse to manage. And I think I bristle every time somebody says litigation is because the last meeting, and our own EMS staff stood up and said, the union's gonna sue.
And I don't think that it needs to. I don't think that needs to happen. And I would like to think that if all the municipalities decide, then okay, then we'll go that route. And I would like to think that, based on the relationship that the communication that we've had with the union and their leadership in negotiating the CBA. I do a lot of litigation, but I also do a lot of avoiding litigation and settling things. So, yeah, it could end in litigation, and it could also just go just fine and smooth.
Appreciate the perspective.
Okay, is this Michael's response, does that answer your questions going way back for the Village of Rockdale?
No. But it's just because I don't know, like, if so we were to go back, right? So tonight, we come up with a plan to take back to our village boards and say, we have this resolution, do we vote yes or no? Then, or the commission has to present a proposal, voted, approved, to come back to the boards and vote yes or no, right, the process. What is being amended in the, what would you say needs to be amended in the IGA?
I think a significant portion of section 2.1.1 would need to be amended. I think the duties and authorities, if it's going to go to Deer Grove, and honestly, it depends on what the terms of the contract with Deer Grove.
It's going to be with Cambridge EMS as well, because we don't have a director right now.
Well, no, there doesn't need to be anything if we stick with, you know,
basically it says we have to appoint and evaluate an EMS director. So if we appoint, or the commission appoints an EMS director, implement the responsibilities under the agreement, review the director's performance, approve the budget, oversee the director's administration of personnel, approve hiring of any employees that is a municipal position, which we don't have, so that's a moot point. Disciplining and including termination when appropriate district employees and volunteers in accordance with law. We don't have district employees or volunteers.
Actually, we do have district employees. That's the problem, is that we do.
But we wouldn't if we switch contracts. That's my point. Like, this would be, what you're saying is, in order for us to go with a different EMS service, we have to adjust this. What I'm saying is the contract we choose would then change this. So it's which comes first.
So, okay, I think I understand. So, the amendment is required if we go with Deer Grove. That's my position.
Of the duties of the commission.
I think you're going to have to, at a minimum, that I have not seen the full proposal. Like, I haven't reviewed that. The Deer Grove proposal in detail because I haven't been asked to, so I don't know all of the provisions that need to be amended, but I think at a minimum that's going to need to be. The proposal, the first proposal for John and Joel presented, they're already municipal staff or commission staff. They're already, at least I know John, I think, is a union member. I don't know if Joel is too. They're already part of the union. We'd be using our own employees, so that would not require an amendment because we're not. You're still using our employees. We're still operating that. We do have to, actually hire an EMS director, like a working director position. But that's all something that's already in there. But
why couldn't we just change the amendment in here as I'm looking at it? Change all references to EMS director to EMS provider.
That would be, you'd have to be unanimous.
Right, but that would be, to me, that's pretty simple. We could go through here and specify.
But Christiana can't vote on that tonight.
They can't vote on it tonight, but.
None of you can vote on it tonight.
Yeah, we can, because we.
No, you can't.
None of you can,
The commission has a quorum here.
The commission would have.
Alicia isn't here.
No,
She's not, you only need 3 for quorum. Oh, Smith back here.
So there are, so that's the thing.
Gotcha. Okay, we don't have to. I'm on the page now. So the commission would need to meet as soon as possible, and that would be a majority vote.
If you get that majority vote, I mean, I think that's, it's, I don't know. I don't even. This is the reason I asked at the last meeting about the budget for EMS, because if Deer Grove doesn't go through, we were all on the hook, and y'all were all on the hook for over $600,000 with no way to refute that. If Lake Mills and Rockdale and Christiana don't agree with the Deer Grove proposal, now you have numbers of what they need to operate. So at least there's a fail-safe to be able to pay for that, but we still have to get.
What do you mean there's a fail-safe to pay for that?
Because otherwise there was no budget, right? There was no numbers to be able. Now at least you have numbers, but but we still have something that's not the astronomical amount. But we still have to get either majority approval of the commission or unanimous approval of the board.
Then we have to get both. And I think we call out the communities that aren't on board with this. And,
I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying I don't know that we have that.
I think the question that I don't want to put it as hold them out. I think the question that I would like to pose to all of the communities is what are the positives and what are the negatives of both proposals that we have in front of us, or both, I can't even call them a proposal, because one is budget and one's not, I mean, I'm getting confused in the language, but I think my true question is, if there is opposition to potentially changing, because my biggest concern is that people who are sitting here,
Quality of service.
quality of service, our current EMS cannot provide quality of service. And I want to highlight one thing. When we talk about these coverage agreements for Lakeside, and you talk about an ambulance who's going to pick up somebody in our community and force them to vote if it is not considered a heart attack, a stroke, or any urgent emergent situation, okay? Or you will be incurring extra expenses on our community members. If someone in my house falls down, falls off a ladder, needs an ambulance, they go to Fort. Not only do they go to Fort, our ambulance is called. It will take them roughly 5 to 6 minutes to get to my house, 4 to 5, depending on where they are. The agreement says they do the assessment and determine if an ALS ambulance is needed. Okay? So their assessment could take anywhere from an additional 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. So then that ambulance is dispatched from the fire station to my house is 18 minutes. That's just drive time. That's not getting in the rig. That's not getting anything. So now we're at around a half hour. Then they go back to Fort. Now where my insurance doesn't cover. And so I'm paying out of pocket. I'm paying out of network. And so is it when you're out of pocket. And that has to be considered.
Ted, you need to stay off the ladder. All right.
Julius just got put on hold. Okay.
Are there any questions of the municipalities of Michael here?
First thing would be the draft of the amendment to the IGA. Present it to the commission, then the resolutions go to the towns.
Yeah, we have, because the specific amendment and the specific language and changes would have to be voted on by the commission, so that it's clear that every single municipality is voting on the same thing.
And will Christiana pass that resolution?
Say again?
Will Christiana pass that resolution?
I can't speak for the entire board. I'm sorry, I can't.
And I, if it doesn't pass now, can we resubmit it in April when there's new boards? I mean, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's
we can
what we would
resubmit something as many times as we want.
I mean, and that would maybe be what we would need to do, you know,
Because I don't, which then, in the meantime, it's gonna push back when our constituents are gonna have proper service.
I don't disagree with you. If we need unanimous support to make a decision, this is what we're up against.
So we need the citizens of Christiana and Lake Mills and Rockdale who are covered by this. I mean, because
And Cambridge.
and Cambridge, fine, and Cambridge,
Right, Cambridge as
and
well.
Cambridge, to talk to their boards and tell them what they want us to do. I mean, I think that I think the Cambridge board, I mean, we've been pushing this and wanting a change in the EMS commission for over a year, and nothing has changed. And that, I am so frustrated with that. I did not come back onto the village board of Cambridge to do nothing but fire and EMS stuff, when this is all we've had to do for 2 years, because I don't know some people's personal agendas. Because we are not serving our constituencies the way things are currently going. And I don't understand why there are certain people who are so unwilling to make a change.
I think that would take me back to my original question, is I would like to hear what communities view the positives, what communities have concerns about, so that we can talk about them and discuss them
And I think to be clear too, we are not talking about contracting with Ryan Brothers, who isn't a local community. Deer Grove is local. The people they are going to give us are going to be in our community. They're going to be living in our EMS house. They are going to be part of our community. And so it's not like we're contracting it away.
Excuse
So,
me, Mr. Chairman.
not-
Point of order. If we stay on the agenda, instead of all these personal opinions and the motivation.
Hey, you have no opinion here. We can talk.
I'm just saying.
In our meeting. We have the right. We have the right to talk about what we want to
decide.
Enough, please, I'm asking everybody. I know it's getting late. Thank you.
Decide how you're going to
Please,
decide.
Listen, we are discussing it.
It's getting late, and our teachers are going to
No,
get frayed.
I'm not.
They're going to get frayed, and I'd like to make sure that we're productive, you know, in the.
I think one more disruption and we ask him to leave.
We're not going
Why would
any
you
further.
ask others to leave?
Okay.
Could we go back to the original question?
You point out what the person
Okay,
said.
okay, please, Tristan, Tristan,
I don't know what.
He's the only one who's arguing with us.
please, please. Yes, you.
What?
Okay, can I ask that you take that up with the representative?
Town of Lake Mills, we only do a portion of the town of Lake Mills. That's what we're discussing here. No, we do fire and EMS, we're just like 7%.
7%, well,
of Lake Mills.
8%
No,
now.
yeah, that's it. So we're only talking about that 8% when we're talking about the Lake Mills portion. Yeah. So, yeah.
What do we need to do as an action item tonight? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a commission meeting needs to be.
The commission meeting needs to set up, and probably have him write the amendment that needs to go to the village board. I'm guessing, right? You would be probably writing the amendment, I would assume.
If the commission, if
Directed by the-
if I'm directed by the commission to draft an amendment to review and act on, then that's what I'm going to do.
But there's no reason why tonight, those of us who are here has directed our commission members to take it to the commission and ask the commission to make changes. That is what we can do as action tonight.
And when our next board meeting is the 17th, is March 17th. I mean, that's a week from Monday. And that is, you know, a quick turnaround, but that need to be moved on something, because either way we need to decide on these extra payments for that we issued. We need to figure out when the budget will be going forward for CMS or the commission as a whole. If we have to move on this, regardless of which direction we go.
Dave, are you committed to actually holding commission meetings?
Yeah, I'm thinking Wednesday, because Thursday seems like it might be a little bit busy for the couple that I've talked to.
We've heard that before.
Wednesday the 12th.
Heard it,
Please, don't want to, let's not make any comments here. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was thinking Wednesday.
Make,
Next week.
Which would be the 12th.
Yeah, if that's what I'd have to, yep.
How long would it take you to draft the amendment? I'm not trying to hold you to it, but just ask them.
It depends on what the commission asked me to draft. I mean, it probably wouldn't take very long. If I can tell you if Mr. Schrader asked me to have an amendment ready for a commission meeting that's going to be held on the 12th. We'll have it ready for a commission meeting held on the 12th.
I mean, I see this two ways. I either see it as a commission meeting where the commissioners have to vote and decide which way we're going, or we all hold our next board meetings and go into closed session and talk about which one we want to go to, and then appoint our commissioners to go to a meeting after our next board meeting to draft the amendment. I mean, that's our. It feels like we as a board need to have a conversation together and decide which way we want to go. Oh, y'all need to do the same, you do the same, and then we need to direct Alicia and Dave and Chris and to go and do.
Cambridge plans on doing it tonight.
Right, we're going to do it tonight. You guys can do that tonight as well, because you've got a quorum.
We could.
Yes.
Yes.
There's
You can.
another room if you need to go.
Yeah, what room available, if you guys want to discuss that.
They don't.
The only problem is just because I don't want anybody to get in trouble with an open meetings issue. There was no, I don't think there was any closed session identified on the agenda. I know, I'm just saying that, you know, that nobody else can. Yeah, you guys do whatever you want. I don't want anybody to accidentally violate an open meeting.
But we could go and discuss,
Just,
Well, don't we have to have an amendment before we can even vote on anything? We can know what you're voting on, and that does have the,
All you're doing is you're letting your representative know where your board stands.
Right,
They
and then
can go to that commission meeting and advocate them for your boards.
and then that's where the amendment would then be resolved there. Then you would have to bring it back to us and at our April meeting to approve, or March if it's on further then.
you guys could hold a special meeting.
Or we could hold a special meeting
to vote on that one thing, or could get in and out in 5 minutes.
Right, but I think we need to deliberate and vote and the appropriate way to do that, and then direct our commission members to go to a commission meeting and pass whatever resolution you have there, bring it back to the boards for us to approve, and then what would have to be unanimous, that resolution.
correct.
So even if at the commission meeting, then let's just say hypothetically, Christiana votes no, they would still be directed to take it to their board. If it was a 3-1,
yes,
they would still have to take it to the board, even if they voted no. Then the board would still, the three of them would then have to vote on the resolution to merit the amendment to the IGA.
correct.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. So I feel like that's the only resolution based on what he said.
And if they don't agree, then what happens?
And we continue operating the way we are.
And we still have to, the commission still needs a budget, which if the municipalities themselves don't, again, we do have pending arbitration, again, that was filed by, Town of Oakland, but given that we don't yet have an operating budget for this year, at the request of Village at Cambridge, this council, we so the remaining 4 municipalities kind of agreed that if we can't resolve that, we would allow the appointed arbitrator to resolve the 2025 budget as well.
But we
I
do
don't-
now have a new EMS portion of the budget that is effectively the same as the 2023.
And-
So that budget money passed, you have to do a C.
Well, no, if you guys pass it, that meets out at least that portion of the arbitration, and you control it, and you don't have the rest of an arbitrator deciding the budget should be for.
But how come we haven't gotten a budget yet from the EMS Commission, because the EMS Commission hasn't met to approve that budget.
There was a draft budget that was approved at the January 31st or the 31st meeting, it was the 31st meeting, that was supposed to be forwarded to the municipality for review and approval. So I think there is a draft budget that was voted to be sent by.
We were told that they had to ask to get
We were
that.
told that was just a draft, and it wasn't the official budget proposal for the municipality was considered. That's what we were told on that one.
I believe that it passed.
Yep, we did.
There was. There was.
I get the Mike's answering your question.
No, I'm talking about Mike.
You're gonna yell at me now too?
No, I'm not yelling. I'm asking you to control me.
I am.
No, not
I'm
yelling.
doing my best. We are having a conversation with please, again, audience. We really don't want to have a free flow. Please, again, everybody. Really, Maya, can you answer the question?
It was my understanding from the motion that was made was to approve the draft budget and send it to the municipalities for review and approval. That was my understanding. That was my understanding. That was my understanding of what was voted on.
I'm not going to get into addressing somebody from the press.
So the press just refused.
No, I'm going to ask the press to respect the court.
It's not.
Please respect everybody. Where do we want to go?
However, if that is an issue,
How is that different from what we just got?
I'm going to state something. So the meeting from January 31st, Mr. Khan, you insisted that a budget be sent to the municipalities prior to the month, which that date was the month, but prevent going to arbitration. The discussion among the commission members was to, even though it was agreed, it was not ready to be sent for approval. It was decided that whatever was prepared to date would not be sent to the municipality. Or
it wasn't approved by the.
I would.
They did vote to.
They did vote to send it, and would.
Yes.
And then a second, and it passed.
Now, if the village of Cambridge doesn't think that you properly have a budget for approval, or if there is a procedural issue prior, I am confident that the commission will approve the same budget I am voting for. So, I am confident that we can avoid.
Okay.
Please, please,
if that is, and to be honest, I would have to. It would also have to defer that to whatever the minutes that Alicia kept, because those are going to be those are ultimately going to be the.
Who would have sent it? Who would have sent it?
We haven't seen it.
Who would have sent the budget?
The minutes haven't been approved. I don't know who sent the. I don't know who forwarded it. If it was. I don't recall who was forwarded. So, but it was.
Well, if we want to consider, that the budget, then Lisa, let's put it on our next agenda.
One we just got.
Is the budget, because
I think that's reflective.
I'm sorry, I can't see in the back. Mr. Williams, are you still here? Yeah. Oh,
That's-
so did you say, I'm sorry, I can't remember you way back. Did you say that this is what you said you were going to submit as the commission, this budget, like said, for the revised budget?
Yeah, that's EMS.
It's just the EMS portion that has not been voted on by the commission.
Okay.
So that would not be, my recollection is that those, what my recollection is that those numbers are very similar to, or less than, list items that were in the, budget, at the very least less than the budget amendment. But, to your point, if there is, if from Cambridge's point to your position, there's not been a budget that you can act upon, or that you feel you can act upon. I'm confident that if we do have, if the commission does have a meeting on the 12th, that would be a fairly simple remedy, so that you do have something that would back to policy.
That'd be great.
I'm going to ask a question. Before I do, I want to ask Rock. Are you okay with timing and having Mike go ahead and make a motion for the commission to act upon on the upcoming meeting for the commission?
Well, I think we would have to have, I mean, either way, we have something prepared in the event that we vote for DEGRO, right? Because if we were to vote for Cambridge, the thing would not change. But it can't be that we're waiting for him, but he's waiting for us, and then it's the chicken or the egg flu, right? So I think we would have to check as a quorum. I don't know if this is posted for us. What is needed for us to make a decision? Just posted.
Our meeting is posted, but as Cambridge meeting, so we're not sure whether
with us invited.
So with us as the
When you posted, you didn't post it as.
I think Annie just posted your agenda. So I think we would have to have a specific action item for us to take action, or I could have a vote on which proposal we would be in favor of, or as whatever board. And that will have to go to our commission members, who would then have to have this amendment ready for the vote, and to then bring back to us for commission to vote. So then, I don't think we can give you an answer tonight.
Michael, could you please write up a potential voting item for our next commission meeting, right on the potential changes to the amendments to the IGA? That the commission can vote on it, and then that can be sent back to the municipality. So, and my next question is does if you write some, and does next resolution have to be revoked also? And the cover page. The resolution
No. So it would be amendment to the. So
you would be writing, they would be making a motion to bring it to us to approve as an amendment to the IGA.
Yep, but it would be in the form of a
but the same thing.
Yep.
It would be the same, whatever he drafts. Are you asking like to build twice to write?
No. He would be doing it for the commission.
So
the commission would vote on it, and then it would be sent. No,
and we would vote on exactly the same thing.
So then, what would happen is, if the commission wants to then make alteration to that amendment, but then it could be done at the time, and then that come back to you guys. So either way, we would vote on it to come back.
But what
if that passes the commission, it would go back to the individual.
I don't know.
A lot of, I mean, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible.
I can assure you, we'll try to keep it as simple as possible. I also, though, I would have to review, I would have to review the specifics of Dear Goodhouse proposal to see how it affects the IGA has, because I has not done that. The only thing I've known was like basic bottom line. Because have done that. The
only thing we're writing this for this time
if that's what the commission wants to do, yeah.
But see, the only problem with that is if you take away Cambridge EMS starting at May 1st, you have no choice, but you are locked into your growth part of a long-term contract, because you have shut down your local expense. So they're going. It's not going to come back. because you chased every employee away. And we're having a hard time trying to, we're having a hard time trying to attract in to get that additional paramedic to give everyone time the coverage that they are paying for and they deserve. Right now, what we have is just a Band-Aid. Thank you very much, Peter. And also, Lakeside, just helping us out and trying to make that little bit of a bridge because we were trying to correct a few problems that be addressed. But during that, we had a little bit of unexpected fallout. So we have to overcome that. We are in a rebuild. So now, I have discussed a couple of things. I would like to maintain we have paramedic the coverage because I was a commissioner. We went to do that. It was tough. It was hard to do that. We had to go through quite a period to get that job done. So the last resort, we would go down to a advanced levels. So now the flex service that Gary mentioned, I think could be a potential possibility. But that has to work out. The state is right now the conversation at John is in the emails that I can see now. We are licensed paramedics, so that's what we have to do. Right? So you would have to addition. We change our SOGs and SBGs to get that job done. So that also would potentially lower your budget because you would not be paying for paramedics. Then also wages. So you resist that because I think paramedic being a higher level of coverage is what we tried to get and everybody deserves and have. So if you're going to make a decision, you're going to go for a long-term contract. My thought was we need to see a long-term contract to see exactly what that is, and because you're going to need to know what you're needing and deal term contract.
And they're willing to do that.
They're willing to do that.
And you need to see that too. Otherwise, you're going to be blind signing the contract, or you're going to be signing the contract.
I don't know what it is about the commission, but I think we have shown, and we need to own up to it, that, like you said, Jim, if we are not an HR service, we do not know it, we cannot maintain that. We are volunteers. We cannot the commission, right? We have shown that we can volunteer, facilitate personnel. I don't want to put that onus on them. Put your growth. I want them to facilitate that. Right? I'm willing to stand up and say, yeah, that's not us. That's not our wheelhouse. Let somebody else take that responsibility and let them provide. We can go to them and ask them questions if we have issues or whatever the case is. If we need to have and control questions, we can ask them and facilitate those questions. But we have shown that we cannot, as a commission, we don't have an appetite for that. We have shown, our actions have shown that.
I think something about a future contract, Dave, is you act like a piece of paper and say, sign up, it's what you get.
Well,
that's what we're talking about through any of this. Talking about what do you want as a municipality or as a group of municipalities, and how do we make that happen? And that's through open and honest discussion of make here's our base proposal or our base contract when we go to that. And, what do you see is anything on base you want to change or you have to prove it along with us having to approve it. We're not going to I want your hands behind your back to slam your head on the table and tell you to sign it. It's a great effort. So I think it's a misrepresentation of what a long-term contract is, or even the other parts look like. I think but and we're trying to get to a word that I got repeated. So you're like, well, I think we're going to only for the West, but for the folks of Cambridge, we need an answer. They know that they but needs folks of Cambridge, we can't operate if they manage.
And so do you.
I need an answer because they have a process that I'm going to have to go through that's going to take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I lost bring them time.
So I guess one question that I'm going to ask of all of us sitting here because I feel like it's going to be the elephant in the room. Have we considered all Oakland coming to get and tell us, and which can propose for which service, which, we know what led them to here. So, do we feel, in all honesty, that if we continue the service that we have in all until Oakland comes back in, continue with service? I think that is.
No, you can't ask that.
I don't want to put anybody in the audience on the seat.
I think
I want all of us
we
to
need
know.
to think about and consider as
I want everyone to know about it.
But I think too, right? Like the whole thing is, how do we keep this from happening again? And right, so how are we to hire a new EMS director? What keeps this same process from happening again under the same IGA, on what the same commission under the same? I mean, I think that's the overarching question is when this IGA was written. Thank you, Bob. It was we expect that people do the right things, and it was okay. Here it is, but at the end of the day, people are going to make the right choice and do the right things. And what happens when that doesn't necessarily match up with everybody's personal interest? Exactly. And so at the end of the day, we need to take care of other people, and we need them to not be able to happen again. So the need and I need us not to be cracked about it, but to take the emotion out of the situation. To GMS has told us we're dealing with 6 people, employment of 6 people versus with the population of our district that are at risk with decisions we're making. Then again, right? I'm not trying to be so blunt about it, and the 6 people have a job to do, and if I got fired from UW Health tomorrow, I would get another job as a physician assistant somewhere else. It would not affect a patient just because if they would set a normal physician assistant taking care of them, it would not difference for us as it's because my family, your family, our friends, our neighbors that were making these decisions for them. And we cannot get, and the best part of it is 6 employees. We cannot apply to work for the Grove, so it's not like in Cambridge. So it's not like we are dear. It's not right, and maybe be built into the with collective bargaining agreement. And I mean, making all of the like huge statements that were ending the lives of the more Cambridge masses. It's not them, it's in structure. And the structure of the system is not working. And over the last 3 years, if any evidence, it is of the structure of our district emergency services is not working. And so, and it's not anybody's fault. I just think everyone tries to do the best they could with what they have. And again, it's a bunch of volunteers. And this is my issue because April with the Linux Mills board will look completely different. The Christiana board will look much different.
Maybe completely.
Right. And so that's 5 people alone, 6 people alone who have to try to understand this whole process when it operates correctly. Not alone when it's on the rails. And so there needs to be an adjustment to this process, regardless of what decision and make with service go away. And I want to have a hard for people which on who live here, family live here, and take care of us. But have them as a career who that also has an opportunity to move on and do the same exact job under a different name. That also, but it's not still the same move, but it's better care for different. The other 3,000 people, it's that this fact, not just that it's 6 people here, which the other don't here, don't have the skin in the game, are going to move on to a different other service someday. So if has to be making big emotional decisions when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of when my neighbor or my dad or somebody had on heart attack, I want them to have the they need, and I trust you to do that because of the structure them to have. The humans, you're not the this everything has nothing to do with the shirt they wear. Not it's the structure they have. Not is tried and true, and it work nothing to do with. And theirs is not. And if we can't have the fruit, we can't get an EMS director who's worth There eight is we can't paramedics. We're going to be revisiting yes every time we doctor have staff. And then if it's the high gearing stuff, that's the HR stuff. If it's all in the legal fees, we don't if we can't protect the budget for that. It is higher, and so yeah, we are just pausing it. How do you? But if you can't afford and we're like, what's $4,000 a year to Rockdale, but $600,000 to you, we and then to our yeah, let's go to $4,000. There is the village of Cambridge 8 hours a day, and that so I think these are decisions we have to make, and our bills to say no because it's GMS. I think I I've to make sure my home for life for say, but it because more than just an emotional decision about people live versus the whole entire community, and I think that's more the point is the most rupture needs to change, and not just the
it's a
point.
Great reaction. I also think you listed off all those and those ifs that you listed off. When you listed off, it sways me more toward your ops because those ifs more off with that your way more right and because I think more that you're to sort of come up with what you said you look like that the greater good, right? Like when you're in public office, you're always looking for these you're going to put some people off. When you're not going to look satisfy but you're looking for greater good of your constituents. What's that you can do, and sure for think greater you would be a very eloquent description of a greater good you do. But it also brought to mind the if that you brought up are just definitely going to be good. But why I would put it brought to me for this year road option. Because I didn't hear any
if we carry on with the IGA, whether that's to the end of this year or until if we can, it's definitely what we continue to have a system that is reporting into we said non-skilled people that and as long as to like that are answering to a group that isn't answering back as long as performance are you supposed to answer a group that answers and Deer Grove has what's the system we have several municipalities right and yeah as
deal with this. I guess I'll on my HR hat.
I don't want to, nor should be, nor is that any part of the role that I don't hire to do by the mission. That
but I think
is
the point of very
part of the role
thing right there though is the number of hours that you have to into right or concern arguments, arbitration, litigation,
that's just with the commissions.
I give you some division of
Not going to ask for straw.
No.
But it just, I'm sizing up in a room for, it's like maybe we get two that are four, two, my eyes not to read, seem fading, gallon, year later.
We can't speak for any community.
Well, here's my hypothetical with this. If it is a 2 to 2, here's
the motion fails.
It is 2 to 2.
Yep. Motion fails. The
I think it's very wise for us to keep in mind that we
motion
vote
fails.
for ourselves. Very wise to let the other municipalities. I can't put words in their mouth or I can't demand. I can't. I can't examine.
But like I said, Dave, if we do ask go with writing a proposed amendment as we go, we were to go to Deer Grove and have the commission propose in comment session or whatever it looks like to say for what did your boards direct you to vote for. If it's whatever grow look we say an amendment ready to go, but then the board's back to rest, the vote needs for unanimous approval, if not just the majority. So if the commission goes says nope, then we're staying in Cambridge as a mess, and then just leave wasted lawyer time to draft me an amendment, but then that's where it would end. Until we see we'll get a new commission effort and try again, then later. I mean, I think it's really on our new option board. So if, again, having I mean,
we have four municipalities. We can make only one amendment change to the IGA, but we can change. We all agree to change this IGA at any point in time.
Right.
Which is something that we try to do. At the beginning, last year.
Right.
Yeah. We don't have to do it at the beginning of last year. So the IGA. We all know it's really written. We all know it probably needs to be so written. Yeah. This is. So But we can do that at any time. Just, get over the hump and figure out what we're doing with it.
So action items tonight, we requesting that the boards hold a special meeting before would 12 be in order to give to our that committee representative a judicial action board, and then at that meeting on the 12th they would vote one way based on whatever position, and they can come back meet to vote. It would be 117. I know it's not. We also have and out the same back week of
we meet
this
Tuesday, so I think we don't have a
all
special meeting.
would be same.
Yeah, we would
So just to have meeting to direct our commission, which whichever. And just include session or two, maybe that would even need to be in closed session if you knew which way you were wondering. You would then go to close session and present when this amendment and which come back to the board with the amendment that would all then have to approve unanimously at two either special meeting or we would then debate for unanimously. We want to either meet if it sounds like the 12th is the commission meeting, we need to have a decision for the Alicia to the 12th. And then our next meeting, the 17th, or week meeting, vote on the resolution on the 17th. So, but your meeting is now next week.
Well,
Could
we have the
on
27th.
Each village doesn't agree to have that meeting to direct the thing, and what happens?
Well, then our commission
Village
representative
doesn't
would
agree to
still have
that
to vote,
other
right?
thing.
I
Fair
think,
enough.
well,
Fair enough.
I think as long as it's on the commission extended to vote on the amendment, I mean, whether or not you make it to as a
You have plenty of time to have that ready.
not meet to
If you ask me to have it ready, I'll have it ready.
No, I'm not asking you. I'll do it for that.
I'll you do have it. Once, so I will prepare a proposed amendment, that, for whatever changes that are going to be necessary for, a Deer Grove, or to go with a Grove, whatever, is an option, and then for, the commission would to go to Deer, that there is a motion, and the second for it, and there's no amendment changes to it, and whatever comes out that commission, we'll make sure, or whatever comes out of the commission, we'll make sure that out of its commission, that will exact or language being sure sent back each municipality, so that each municipality is voting the same thing. I think that's what if you just all vote on the same thing, each or if any of you try to amend it or anything like that, don't vote on the things, it's just not passed. If you sign a unanimous and or anything like that, then
Okay, so what's the timing? I mean, that's gonna happen 12, it'll get sent out to the board. So, all our meetings are on Tuesday. You're getting down to the 11th, right? So we have to have a special meeting.
And then
right?
a second meeting, so we meet twice.
Oh,
Yeah.
We-
And then, but if we need, we have to meet earlier, I think we have a special meeting.
I'm getting, so what date do we wanna have all the town boards to make a motion on the resolution? Date do you want to have all
that's
the
up to each of you.
I'm not.
Oh, thank you. So,
So, beautiful. Yeah, you guys meet on the 17th? Do you guys meet on the 17th as well? Or do you meet? Oh, you meet the 11th. You guys, you guys meet on the 7th?
Special meeting, no
When
problem.
when
Just
does,
wanna know what date.
when does Christiana meet?
We meet on the, yeah,
Maybe have,
the meeting, well,
just, okay.
meet,
So,
but
okay,
Jim's
then,
meeting is to find
that
the
is-
top date.
so you wanna say, so that, do we, so we'll just stay on the date, we have response
Yeah.
back on the 18th? Then, so whenever date works, say between the 12th and the 18th?
because if 4 of
Whatever.
us agree to have a special meeting with one agenda item, we just have to 24 hours to post the fact. And I'm assuming Alicia will spend board meeting if she wasn't, then more of a anyway, we'd have to course but
well, how do you know how you're doing right now?
but we just can't.
There you go.
Thing.
So speaking of your board at vote point now,
Well, no, we have to meet.
there you
Right.
go.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Head on, Mister. We already have a, yeah, I think if
Give
that
you-
all works on the 12th, we can meet on the 17th for vote. But then 8, because we gotta have it up there. Well, we would
8
to 7.
all need to have an answer.
So,
Okay, bad, and we would make the decision. So the 18th, we
Provided
and if we do, then who's the commission will notify if Deer Grove and or 60-day notice will notify Deer Grove and
60
with
notice
that decision, if that's no decision.
There would have to be another commission meeting then.
Yeah. What are you referring to the CDA, 60 days?
Because in order for them to accept a contract with Deer Grove, they would have to have.
The CBA process can be a little bit different. It may or may not be clean. The CBA process is a little bit, whatever the mission will not whatever it is it needs to so
But
to
would
resolve
the
that.
commission be the ones that would
The
say,
take
yes,
step
Chief
to,
Lansing, Mark, May 1st, the issue would like the ones or that would be a say commission, Driston,
Yeah, I
Mark,
believe
May
because
1st.
I think
We-
you would be contracted to leave a commission, not the individual. We would contract to
We
the
would be voting
commission,
on the amendment to
not
give
our
them the
individual.
authority.
That's what you said last time.
And
We
in
would
all
be
fairness,
voting
if
to
we're
amend
not getting
to
to
go
in
the
fairness,
first.
we're not getting back to them until mid, and then mid, bro, I don't think it's gonna happen anything first. So I'm thinking we're probably gonna move it back in March. April.
Well, we would know March.
Have it from Weavers, or then we can March, back, okay, March 18th.
We,
April, that enough notice for you to have people ready for me? Okay. It's
not about having
is
people
that
ready, it's
notice
about the other parts of the
ready
process.
for the contract ready and signed, us
Let's
approving
say
it.
when you need to know by. I'm sorry.
Get
Well,
contract ready.
if you ask me the answer on the
Is it
18th, I have a commission
when
my own
you need to
meeting on the 20th, we can advance give the
good.
discussion, I have conscience, commission, then you go in for additional discussion, this meeting, and I've held the contract.
Okay.
I'm assuming as the you're gonna want to have Mr. San do it, the human,
Correct.
we were the candidate, and you're on it, I'm sure her, you know, so the attorney for the, my work in he's, so I'm
So
sure.
we're also commission
don't
meeting on the
anticipate
18th then.
Anticipate
Would you
that being an
need
issue.
to-
Yes, we'll be able to work.
My goal would be that we would have
I
lawyer
don't
leave
anticipate
you
being
before we
whatever,
get back anything
we'll
else to it.
be able to pick it up.
My goal would be that we would have lawyer review before, for this one process, after any form of contract, it would be the commission approve it, and to go to the municipality for approval.
Because before municipalities would have to approve that
Then
contract.
go unanimous, so correct, please,
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah.
So
All
snapshot that
municipalities
would happen is if you sign a contract. But you said, snapshot would be that for the 60 days is that contract we have you guys. So that would be you that already be take over that for that day mutual. We if I was a sermon, or if you was educated, or if I was like a sick, because I would become before the 65 came. I was just
So David, encouraging them to.
no, I'm just saying.
I mean-
If you're gonna go that road, you'd be prepared.
We are.
No, I'm just
Don't know
saying.
what other
You
changes we have.
You're gonna go road. You better
I think what my
what
commission
choice
and municipalities are prepared to do is for sure start friends with an agreement and then understand for sure whatever makes sense first now if it happens. Then obviously state can cancel an agreement because it was what one must do because out of maybe running a bill in this because knowing that there was going to be some potential challenge effect that might no cause there's things that happen before me potentially that's a very non-committed answer to do the best we can in the situation as it presents. That's very middle to do. We'll do the best we can with the situation as it presents.
All right. Yeah. What's next is
Hold on a second, though. Well, Dave, well, I don't know what that would be an issue if we have these other agreements with Lake State, and I don't know why it would be an issue. We have why these be in other agreements.
Well,
Agreements are just a mutual aid.
Yeah.
Provide periodic coverage, potentially not along those solutions. They want to get for different.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Potential for
Right.
solutions. Yeah, answer.
Okay.
And she can probably say he's like without a more defensive agreement compared to chief staff without to keep for someone else's God wants to without something else and better answers from staff cover someone else.
Yeah.
EMS have to notify out of service if the dispatchers don't stay out of. If they don't have employees to come notify us and agree to their dispatchers. All right. I mean, don't have employees. Game over is done.
They don't actively
So,
So Michael, you and the committee are gonna work out this. Mike, you and that should work where this municipalities will be bringing forth at their next schedule area, and what they are all, you get information or who the commission who are, and then we are takes on that by the 19th and the commission 18th are of March. What? Well, we ain't, we're both.
We know, we have to do due diligence and
Are we okay with that? Everybody?
we have, no, we
Sounds-
just do our, we can put on the read.
Okay. Okay.
We could vote on how to direct you, but we're making, so we could take that action. We vote that action, I do, but maybe we,
I wanna
so we,
do it.
that, no, that's not what this is about. It would be, tonight, we could take action, the village not being brief, it would take action to say, so we are taking direction, to take to the EMS commission, say that we would want to go with their growth. To read to the EMS can do tonight.
We don't have a special meeting.
We don't have a special.
But we meet
can-
on
we can do
Tuesday,
that.
and we can put it in, should put it on our agenda, put it on the thing. Meet us Tuesday. We
Okay.
do, we'll meet, have our.
But, you know, we did, right, we could take action on this
Okay.
point. And we are consulting, but it's just we taking it, that we take action on,
Well, and
maybe
discussing
it's to
Tuesday.
one, sorry, yeah.
Will be live on Facebook this month. I want to have to reflect on anything that I'm well to wrong. And, go into it. Reflect on it, not like just making a rapid decision that I want to over the decision make. And for make everyone national decision, you know, do what? Decision too. You know, we're mad. We should like, you know, first, the one is, all right. Is there anything else? Need, making of, is any, or else, getting an ID on the making of, budget process for the IGP. We want to tackle or want to take it on the,
Yeah.
to the.
One thing before we move on, a little bit about
It's
positive
there.
note. Would be smart to do, $40,000 donation, a little up from a, really, we see to one use and we see, needed the, so Rockaway, I think would be able to share for donating $1,000 for 2 hours on service. They do good service, really taking care of $1,000 for general second our doctors, so.
Did this for the fair or EMS?
I did either.
Okay, great. This
This is to Cambridge Fire and EMS. Just a little note in it. Could you- So if you should, which, yeah.
Okay,
So they, here,
We kind of going to with you guys,
but
your next meeting, like that, so if you say something about the next guy, maybe, yeah, next reading, what, that's what the topic it was basically, about maybe, they will, very depending on what they have, but they, but, budget rate for any, for election change for
I think ultimately.
getting some good voters for at least, because we cannot compute our rate budget. Yeah, so
Gotta-
if they still risking some things, but they have a budget, and we, or, yeah, the commission thinks they have a budget, if, yes, get a commission, and thinks they have a budget.
Would like to see built into that budget, since it is for the 2022 budget. We anticipate the date that we are needing budget track and service for them, like I did, and the, and for paid consent here, and I would like to see the site overtime, that is estimated, and I or the light of interest that we are running the now overtime, because that probably made them forcing the
What we normally
have
should
out,
run out.
And that other question, I think on our next meeting, we had tabled that additional assessment invoice that we got. I think given the numbers had both the EMS annual growth assessment
invoice to that week. And it doesn't look like the number extra for $4,000 is going to be that needed for 2029, but it is like something that need to operate independently. Is that being those were for the out in my phone? Or
Well, yeah,
is that something you need to operate
because
imminently?
right
At what
now,
percent now?
we have about $555 in funds. We are $1,055 and like the $2,359 11 check-ins now. So 20 we transfer some guy from the line of credit. So now we had on our open line of credit we $7,000 credit. So we have a open credit deal $1,000 we limit on a $150,000 open line of credit and it our we have to go to the bank and ask and
Sell the juice people?
Hey, don't do anything really good because the money has to go into a
So the question I think is, sounds like this assessment is not necessarily can I operate per the budget or that it's more the right assessment,
right?
Not so if it was something right. We could for whatever would pay more even that now, and that's only $114 it was $1,000 that does we could have if all four to disagree, but he paid it only doesn't necessarily mean that $2 doesn't have that if it's a of it could have
it would help us get us to the first quarter the second
out of
beginning of the second quarter with
help.
then it help you know the majority of us are penny of early which that hopefully first days of joy orders would pay then that would not recover but it would just a little evening so now the other thing we would have had every 5 give pay bills this year thing too so that's like 5 there this year when came out that there was a also a lead truck there when it came out so that was really some mistake there's fire team just came out. Yeah. Jan, I don't remember exactly. It was $22,000 payment that came out. And I don't remember exactly what it was. $20,000 payment came out. I have to say. Yeah.
So in order for us to decide, I think that was it was our question was is everybody gonna pay that? I guess assessment because that was what our discussion. We don't we should pay. Is there we gonna be more bad?
I know, and I started with it for a while before I
kind of
did.
I don't know pay that
Even
when
we did first and for December was I'll be out did it. I have one need to get opera store in that quarter back early number 9 after our last meeting to write the first time thank you very much for the at least there gave us last money to operating for a little while and I thank very much to show that because he said started with it for out and I checked with Michael I see for if it was weak and whether around and I checked my that's it right I don't know if that was you with I said that it was home was okay do that so and so
because the difference the initial invoice because for difference based on the initial 23 is also paying were if 5 municipality 20 equal 3 value rate so that obviously changes if you do the what ratio we currently have of the 4 so change is really do the current my opinion it's for the operation so by operation the it's the budget's by PV rates the others or it's so it's operation side up whatever the budget is by 4 each ratio. Fortunately we're still going to be rating a split 23 because we have all the registrations but up for and unfunded operating we have 2012 I have 120 so but those are the down averages and that and we have Dave to the 25 I can tell you though did was work over the numbers and double his math multiple times of percent can the day
we just
go
verify
those
that does not
and
make
we'll check
a
math multiple time for the
decision
now.
do that that was just that was not president
correct
decision
I
decision
made
to
I
that
felt it was
without
Michael but I made that decision
And I think
thing I,
committee.
and so some, I,
And
that
where was
was
it
but I-
presented that it was
And
a
I
committee
don't-
decision?
Same, I did, just had to.
Oh, no, was it,
We need
I wanna
money.
clarify, presented
I-
it was
we-
commission
We have it,
decision?
to my-
We done.
Okay.
Needed-
when previous invoices have gone.
I- we were-
I've been, I have mine up, I don't even, I've been pre-invoice commission on attorney for a year. I remember just over a year, and when this invoice went out, or if it wasn't a yet mission, commission, maybe, yeah, it's over.
A little different.
Previous, yeah, voices, slightly different, still,
Right.
the
Okay.
determination is relative to the, this,
And-
so, it's, yeah.
That's-
but
I'm not
still,
questioning, just
I just, I want to, since everyone's here, I want to make sure
And I'm-
that's, everybody
that's all.
hears what the
You know,
rationale is.
okay.
So I, since
The decision
everybody
to pay
here, I want
then,
to sure
is this
hear
gonna be
what
every
the
quarter?
rationale was.
We're gonna potentially double decision, or hey, it paint is instant. If commission's gonna that every can afford it, or just now we don't need it to operate, and then we may have it to the budget is what we expect is it
Right, and that's
now
the
because you
intent was
get to
if
operate when a new
less than
that
but
you know,
that was it was in fit you'd some it's more than what your paying would be a new and there would be that and still have kicked the idea if then pay more than our GDP break it up over the next and John quarter is so it's painful more you so anyway with those numbers we know that the 20 is not budget so if I make but you know anyway what was not it's just that was like a little about the bit so if we use the what we 940 from the 10 bit of budget for $40 we 370 projected from 65 budget out 20 which is quarter painted 127,000 109 for games and just 20 early cent would be $180 $1,008 $757 and those with $98,713.47 and like McDale would be years being $1,084.16.78 and right so that was with 9,000
based off of the 20.
no that's based
And that order,
that's number order spent
And that's based off the
potential
2023.
that's the 25
2025
the
and that
number
That was
a little down a little it's not
2021
times but just down there I guess if you want to go on yearly go to the which is 470 pounds of 337 you want 12 and that's came in $607,360.95 Chris like and it was $376,253.29 and Rocket Mills there's $75,126.30 and then Gale $33,606 what 63 was but this yeah pretty almost you know like 20 week was much double and then at least you get pretty much
they're all pretty much double.
When it came kind of takes the ice hit no because it's just gets
All
because obviously which is the big the big 9 player so I will see it's the end of
doubles
for us yeah for us too
It more doubles, yeah, too, yeah.
it's because you going from 3% to
More than doubles for us,
so
yeah.
you got-
We're gonna have to go up
Yeah,
with
you
referendum
get
because
from
we
20%
have,
to
not have
50%.
money in the budget.
So,
We
yeah,
would cut, we could cut referendum every staff member do and we could cut funding for the, could fund like for the library and it'd be tough and be able to and funding library.
And if you go to Deer Grove, you know, numbers be a little bit different, but not huge.
Well, go with Grove and
You go
comes
Deer
the number for a lot.
Yeah, it was a
Well,
put that provider again. Yep, that
Well, if you Deer
when you
Oakland
go
goes back,
the large
numbers are a lot.
divider, when you had to fit away, if you got left, because take with one, you know, just be a
You
provider.
miss it so much.
I know. You take it away. Like left, you guys it would change. If that's
Four
you know,
wouldn't us.
and yeah, if I would if I had it, I would say it's like be a word
Yeah,
case at
my-
5,253,093. I for that look little over that would say like we're gonna 70 you know that's the one injury you get into that defense have you know they get it and as far as spend it's our tag on down for that dollars that's just as important tonight as far as you guys and then next is dollars you got this is important to us unique in both you got yeah is it right so anyway under that's another way it's up I know that 30, send out them additional kind of isolate and check. You know, as we send a cop at it in the day, and then right after guys give a big check and work, and have to send my more money with. If you get it back, and I have dollars to pay and some money, you know, but just I'd rather we ain't better than we would pay my vendors and the creditor rather than the builder. So then I would just
So we are we paying? It'll be.
I tell you what it is. So how
we all
and told not to do the disbursement
beyond
because of what I did. I guys, I had cleared it, and I was heard that like this shipment should be weed. You and hopefully Dominic think would fall milk, but and I can Robin and hopefully yell at the so most treasure fall. Get sure that and there's cow well hey, but she let me pull the trucker. You do it because I'm seeing they got the stuff with that all but just money when you do it. But I mean, if we come over and we would be the additional milk. The first order would be tagged the second order. Really hurts and have and what you just said is risk to keep money done. The money to cricket and it's like this money hurts and we probably no can you guys. That's why we like pay partly in a year marketing. Just what I went with it and now we can court yearly.
At your February open meeting when you brought up the topic of the question, so you did not worry a decision meeting vote you that or pay it the night or did you this additional payment?
Oh, did not make a decision because that would have been on the market. So we did not make a decision. This is then what
we are your position in the questions that we are legally obligated to pay so that because it is part of our IGA position. We are legally obligated. If we do that, and it is really of the IGA budget. Well, but
we
don't write.
When you take away the divide,
right.
Opry has 20 of the money, you know, and it was my position. Take the health writer. We someone has to make it out that because and that I was hiding with it because I wanted to a rough gonna be right that because I with I thought it was well.
For variation money out and for all these people that are leaving and you don't see all that money vacation to buying house is for all in people.
It is part of a little bit of what John is in for cooking. He heard of conservative numbers and had in for filtration because in use numbers in the little tradition because two of them we have in part of this case two of anybody that has and we vacation pay yes I do have some repercussions and it can go on for about unless we have some repercussions what could be done for really we out other 3 mics before so we're going to get you on a new problem before we
throw you so you question speaking of sorry to keep you on tonight kind of I asked you a month vacation was word and all that stuff favorite record use vacation crew levels but time things for were you able to get that information vacation or sick approvals like were you able to get information
put it out there in some tech difficulties. I don't know. I articulated a request point out then I wanted information from the meticulous my and then I just respect I wanted to have this information.
Yep.
And it's basically and everyone's got
probably get
as soon as she gets her IT stuff cleaned up, whatever going on, because as soon as stuff you get clogged, he's all up, whatever, cast down there, some of that wasn't out, and so this that's sent to be or that's look at right. And now I just stuff and so I would find another before and I did that the way again because I was hoping to wait to fill the day before I and I was her name like it's kind of she gets fixed, but I haven't anything either. Something,
Can't get in.
something with, you know,
Is that what you're saying?
whatever, something with.
So, she
well,
referred to JJ
something
in an
with,
email?
she contacted with AJ and see if he is our IT guy.
Who's contacting?
He contacted
Who's
JJ.
It sounds like
Is
you're
our
trying to
IT.
remote land to a computer. Where is that computer exist?
She doesn't
She's
know how.
trying to remote in a computer. Doesn't mind computer. You're this. You're IT.
Well,
So
she lives in
you
Ohio.
probably understand what I'm asking.
I don't
No.
understand.
No.
She contacted JJ, which our
Probably
IT
understand
provider,
what
to
I'm
see if
asking.
he could contacted JJ to get just through IT denied her get to connect. He could help her navigate through IT, not her connections.
Yes, ma'am.
While you're doing that, do you want to send it back to
Yeah.
the amendment?
Ma'am.
Because you're doing that we will have mail for it, communities, and we could then in this.
I mean, the overall, I think,
That
withdrew so that necessarily necessity withdrawing the amendment because it's not like, you know, they withdrew them, so drawing, if that's a amendment, if submission meeting with that, you can remove the old withdrawal, so, but yeah, we're doing amendment, if we're wanting it, include more municipalities, move the Falkland, so that, that's easy enough, as long as we're gonna
Fine.
making municipalities and stuff, and stuff that we have to do.
Okay, so I'll.
Yeah.
the delegate advocate.
Okay.
I have
Means
to,
it-
if we can get opened and back case and change play models as it what happens.
Probably
If
make
we can Oakland to come back in.
There's probably other
Them
negotiations.
coming
Because we're
in
gonna have
any
other
other than
negotiations.
letting
Probably negotiations.
contract them sitting back in for anything other than like any other than the commission is providing services. So Oakland service anything that they're then a member of the commission is providing anything other than that is going to require services not full member of the commission. Not necessarily anything other than that. It would then require unanimous approval of the municipal amendment, but absolutely require unanimous approval of the four municipalities. Yep. Back in. There's really no, because there's really no mechanism for sitting, because withdrawal really in GA, there's no mechanism for the mechanism. I think the mechanism that would all be in the act for pay, no mechanism back in would be the only misconceived from mechanism to that would be available palette. Bring somebody back and is going to be unanimous municipalities.
Or we would write
We new it's that would also require a unanimous approval, and that's a 9-2
That's what just
would all
all
require
of the things that we keep talking about,
approval. That's fine too.
this. I think that it just comes, it's
Yeah.
the thing that we what's talking about, getting the sort.
No, it's just it's not my opinion. No, I know for a fact it's not my just opinion. For that Chris and like Miles agrees that the council or that recipient withdrawal agrees required the approval of the decision and coming back in, pending the call or at any required new approval. The other regardless of whether certain Oakland coming back anybody in require adding new members, regardless of whether it's open or anything else. Yes, it would require.
We're going to get back to budget process.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're gonna get back to the budget process for the one you talked about last this. Is anything else that we want to talk about? With Dave gave us updated numbers and the village of Cambridge look at a $470,000 number and the investment of Cambridge is looking at $470,000 from the new start. Because what we estimate. That's a up now to $2.6 I think. What all the other municipalities so like that is 110,000. All right, numbers could come down. All other municipalities will tear it up. Don't know.
Yeah,
That number could come down. Late, you just
But
don't know.
has to be, you know, tired. Because
I would send hopefully that you could contribute kind of numbers to of what it will look like early to with a hope that you just distribute just the numbers for reference and would look at that quarterly with each for our own.
Is there anything else here
reference.
on
No.
the budget? Anybody? All right. So if I'm looking at, is there any numbering here on
2023 assessment for Cambridge. So distance looking at it was in our with 23 if it came down for 2023 quarter would have paid 100 would have been $10,000 plus continue order with the 20 what you thing with about 2025 but then is $18,000 shares $2,000 per and we're producing the 22 budget 17 is we're going to give off $2,000 for that's 117.
Yeah.
I think one thing I would ask for talking about it
Where-
is, and I know we referenced to your one thing line, but guys, is we're talking on budget, going to that in the day specific, by the bottom, kind of pipeline, but right down, making back that way, so you can specifically line C line by where there is budget down, choose that is where only there that is, please, things like that, where, so if there was something could issue, going where order we have previous budgets, I think going through that, but that's something we do, could fall on like that, and just for my budget, I feel really it would be simple about that.
Sure.
Okay, that thing be done, I think, we were, my perspective, I hope.
A conversation with Oakland is important. And we want to move forward because, like Dave, think if we go with Station Grove, we aren't moving our ourselves, like
You're
she said. We go a few years, we are think are the which nails we ourselves in hand toward our future anyway. And I think, and regardless of the conservation we have, we can afford the most important and to see what their plans are. I think what conversation with Ron Oakland is all important is see what their concerns coming in or their views are with if it's with your proposal. Thought that's would we or conform into the if they back with us because savings and say ahead out of for leave admission or go audit could it become that would cost force to then take it with for a portion of half and to the cut their chin bring now and be just back like main Jefferson's portion of port elimination of there's lots of what is covered now cost and weavings getting the make it a little bit more equitable. I think a lot of we have for is say that and something we would a little bit more equitable rotation last we could have one is that an action item something to be want to the two next to request of some one specific act this is item what take in the committee meeting I don't know I could get no position but this is where it had open information on I don't know that give you a start the conversation because it will really we have if we go make your I mean way did the conversation you don't will something you really well then they're gonna even if to go with our we're connected right there's our our we can perhaps contact by system with like and it's gonna go to come to and we look to Virginia and that or at least in or we think for another contract and because you said to me to back how it came MS back in tables and what that gets look like for them see with the group of all of Oakland to say come somebody to the talk to Oakland that would like for some should send budget I mean it's with the quality of all know us if they like hard they should have to Oakland
Let's say
somebody send them to the about it's with
I think board facilitating
I think that kind of conversation is all the municipalities
to them like
whatever I representative want to say that all municipalities
Part of the conversation that you're being up is that other than no that say that contract bring that up. Right. Now, in fact,
I mean, all get to that, right? We all got to put a budget together for 26. Right. Oh, I'm that's we're not adding too far. I mean, you got to. I mean, budget for 20. I per we need to. That's not too far away either. So do you think we need to?
I think June is a deadline.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yes, because they for the is believe month.
There got to stop the documents. Well, it's been for dear that's to know June when we would learn for 26. There's a agree all of our are done you and guess grow and it's we need by June. Then what look 26. I mean, and our budget do not. I mean, I mean, I think it'd be and if day Cambridge at least. Yeah, I mean, I heard that. I think it would with Ivor if we, see it with still GM, but all if you still a couple of $4 still to you, $5,000 you other than even shave $1,000. I mean, that's still put I would worth donging this rack to then people sick hardly. Which so it we so until what we think need it's how to make them back work the take regardless it would easy we go to get say back. Do you need a but I do think I'd be with here. I think that's the with dear proposal. Environment do say what do we
I agree
Because
with you, Paul. I
everybody's
think it
gonna
has to be in the
last
kind
we
of,
tried to rewrite
in a
the I
to say,
so
you need,
Oakland
we need.
would speak in, everybody's gonna have to, because we were gonna try shining so that when our two states fell to up our recommendation, we're giving the direction and for our community municipalities did write it up. Recommendation, I say, all and the other three municipalities be involved, basically all in conversation.
Yeah,
So
I think to start the
all the
conversation, right,
municipalities
and
have
focus as we
in
can.
all of the conversation.
But it, and I just with conversation, that
Open
can be
with
candid,
Will.
we can with
List
tape.
Yeah.
I
Maybe-
think one, you know, be willing to listen to, I think that you have to join seating, is not there, but where I could
Direct.
very important number, and let them know, we're here to put our seat, show that is not there, but, and I think that can be enriched then, or, to know, there's our
And I,
direction.
we have to. We don't need for the rest
That
of
would
25,
enough
they
to,
us,
yeah,
but
get us together.
come in,
Talk.
we have, because we
Yep.
need them,
Yes.
rest of the night, and need us, but it's coming up pretty hot here next.
Well,
We know.
if
Yeah,
talk,
but you have to
come on,
buy them.
yeah.
That's what,
Right.
then, you come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Beg, they don't.
Give me the good back.
They pay for
Alright.
audit, you know, I
Well,
mean, there's benefits for both, well, that's the only for the audit. I tell you, that's a benefit process to do that, and that not only hold you know, everyone can say, okay, she be, I mean, yeah, you know, and that's it, go on the playground together, then they're all, if we want, say, I mean, holy can lead the friends best, and, you know, play on the
We
playground
have
together.
that. Is there
We
anything
just move
else
on.
about
Hopefully
the
that's-
process we want to discuss here this? Okay, have, is there anything?
Are we
in the
voting to
budget
approve
process
this
that
then?
we want to discuss here this evening?
Everyone go to, is the plan, we vote to, these extra bills, is it, and we're whatever, going to, is that the plan?
I
Is extra assessments, something required to pay?
Yeah, ours is.
I don't think we have to discuss,
A little bit-
we'll have to
yeah.
discuss.
Oh, wait, yeah, wait a minute.
I mean,
Ours
we
is.
have, we have.
Babe, yeah.
Yeah, if, and doesn't like, take, we have to.
Question
From a
is,
became,
if we're
we have
paying it, nobody says
actually.
we're paying, because ours, and we're, you're paying, and somebody else is, where we're paying it, you know, it is, our pay is cheaper,
Comes
more.
to matter. I mean, we'll, I'm sure we'll eventually pay it. How it is just to a matter, what, I cut out of the budget in order to pay for it, those types of things.
Yeah.
Conversation,
No,
I have to help, it's not to be out of the, I'm budget, in order to, I'm the board, so, most of the committees, so
I spoke with
conversations
Smith
we have, it's not even, and
and
only
they
because I'm the chair
down
of audit finance.
There, I spoke to Dave Tobacco morning, and they've touched on it. So there is money that the FDA may are required bill, just.
Right.
So, I have a, we are different, and I pay.
Vote
So
on
we
the-
put on agenda for Monday.
I was just on there asking questions, like, you said, now, one time versus, like,
Yes.
is this why every quarter, you need to be now, that's this one time, well, so we, is the new budget. This every quarter, we're be a double, you know, and we have budget. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Not larger,
All right.
but for the
Okay.
village, members.
All right, is there anything else?
For the larger group,
We're,
that may-
we have
for
a
the-
joint meeting. We want to, have this one, adjourned. I don't know, we're gonna meet. We're gonna have this one to adjourn. Some.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you got all, okay, all in favor of adjourning, please, you've got five, hang on. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody